You're listening to Middle Age Movie Reviews.
Hello, welcome to Middle Age Movies Podcast. Three guys saying we're about to spoil the shit out of the Mandalorian and Grogu for all of you. So if you don't want to hear the spoilers and every little detail about this movie, there is a non-spoiler version that came out last week. Please go check that out. Go see the movie and then come back and see if you agree with all the things that we're going to point out in this movie and if you agree with our analysis of it. And without further ado, off we go to a galaxy far, far away.
Just a quick trivia here. You know, it's been a minute since we've done some trivia on our show. I just wanted to ask you, Tim, what is the connection between this movie and Rio Grande?
Both filmed in the same location?
Nope. How about you, Rick? Do you know?
Same director? The director probably did.
Yeah, by a long shot did, man.
No. How about you, Andreas? Any idea what connects this movie to the movie Rio Grande?
No, I do not. This is baffling to me.
I was waiting for Andres to go, what's a Rio Grande?
Oh, God.
So if I was to use the name Wayne, would you understand, Tim?
There's, a little John Wayne connection here.
Yes, because John Wayne's grandson is the body double or the action hero or the stunt guy for Din Djarin.
Oh, Brendan Wayne.
Yep.
There we go. I did not know that was an actual relation to John Wayne.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I could kind of see it, actually. I could see the resemblance. Maybe just a little bit of mustache action and put in a cowboy hat and maybe rearrange his face a bit. But yeah, I see it.
Well, and maybe take the helmet off as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw that. I'm like, man, that name looks familiar. And yep, Brendan Wayne is actually the grandson of John Wayne through his mother's side of the family. So I was like, that's pretty cool.
His father's sister's brother's mother.
It's just like the same
Exactly.
thing. Twice removed.
Anyone know the reference? Please tell me someone here knows the
Oh,
reference.
it's Spaceballs. Anytime we do a Star Wars film, you got to throw in some Spaceballs.
No, it's not. It's Conan the Destroyer.
Yeah, but isn't there a segment where Dark Helmet does the same thing? Your mother's brothers, sisters.
Yes.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, damn Skippy I am.
Well, I have to take a look and see which one came first because that could be a callback to that Conan thing where they're trying to get into the temple or whatever, and they're trying to find a secret entrance, and he's like, your brother's sister's friend's cousin, and he's like, no, my brother's sister's cousin.
Actually, I do remember that. But Spaceballs did it better.
Da, 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 da.
All right, guys. Well, let's head back to the Mandalorian. So our bounty hunter, Din Djarin, known as Mando, and his foundling, Grogu, work for the New Republic to hunt down neo-imperialistic warlords of the former Galactic Empire. And we are introduced to them through a cold open. So, guys, when we first see our wonderful Mando, it's actually almost like a horror movie, kind of like working in the shadows.
Actually, I'm gonna go John Wick, man. It's that beginning of that film's got some serious John Wick vibes to it, I think. Honestly.
Yeah. I think it's kind of neat because we're basically brought in like a corporate meeting. This former general.
Warlord. He's a warlord commander.
Yeah. He's doing a Godfather thing. He's trying to shake down these people. And I just think that this is really cool,
Yeah.
Commander Barrow.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt the only thing I got to say that I found to be jarring was just before that scene opened, we were introduced to the plot, or at least the background to the plot, with a different, it wasn't a crawl. It was words on the screen and it didn't actually crawl. You know what I mean? And I was like, missed opportunity. I don't know. What do you guys say?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what was worse than that? Not only did they just kind of, splash it up there, this is what's going on instead of having the crawl. The introduction to this film, man, it's like they sketched it over a quick lunch or a quick break or something. Like they're sitting on a John, producing something else for a moment, and they're like, let me just whip this out real quick. And they wrote that kind of that little intro because it's literally barely 2 paragraphs. Not even that. It's a paragraph in a sentence. But what I found even more jarring than that was it's the first time we got a Star Wars movie with credits at the beginning too, and I really was disappointed that.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, like it just kind of took away that Star Wars vibe. Like you don't get the crawl, and then you got all these stupid people's names flashing up there, distracting you from stuff. It's like like they need more fanfare. But yeah, so I was not a fan of the opening in that respect.
The opening felt like you're starting a TV series, and I mean it might be because I feel a little bit like, okay, this is a movie they're making from a TV series, much like I'd referenced earlier about going into it made me feel like I'm going into the X-Files movie. I already had this stuff built up from those episodes, so it didn't feel right off the bat like a Star Wars movie. And to kind of address the whole text, I was really kind of hoping for like a voiceover.
So you guys are talking about the credits. If it was funny, I kind of missed that with my friend. we caught just the last part of that cold opener, and I don't mind them not doing the traditional Star Wars call because it's just like the solo projects different from the mainland storylines of the Star Wars films, of the Skywalker stuff.
Yeah.
And Rogue One did this, and I appreciate what Rogue One did with that opening. I think for this one, I kind of wish they did something that was kind of very original, like samurai or those fantasy Mad Max films. They always have a good narrator telling you what's going on in the world at that time before you could enter into that story. Maybe they could have done something that, you could have brought the character Bo-Katan.
Except you got everybody get up and leave the theater right away. That would not have been a good call.
Speaking of leaving a theater and Andreas not actually seeing this, I don't know what the hell where you were watching it, but where I was watching it, I watched and sat through about 40 minutes of trailers. Did you guys experience that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, what the hell is going on here, man?
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. It's just like, oh my God, please get to the movie. I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah, it's getting bad.
See, I think I disagree with you a little bit though, Andreas.
Okay.
I wish they would start all the Star Wars movies like they did the original ones. I think it sets a tone, and it's what sets Star Wars franchise separate from all the rest of them. Nobody else has that music, that crawl, and that kind of stuff. And then usually some kind of cool shot that gets you into the movie. And I know they didn't do it on a couple of the others. And I think it's a mistake. I think it's much like The Rug and The Big Lebowski. It just ties the whole franchise together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of how I feel on that.
It's like doing a cold open for a James Bond movie. You have a certain precedent that you have to follow.
Yeah, but you're still going to get that segment with all the cool visuals and stuff, and it's always going to end with that gun, looking down the barrel of the gun with him, and then turning and drawing on you. It's a staple of that series, and I think it's important in a franchise that you maintain that to keep the integrity of it as a whole. That's just my feel on it. That's what gets me jazzed and ready to just engross myself into the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. And getting back to it, man, I agree with you, Matt. I kind of felt like there was some Godfather vibes going on here. At least there was an attempt. He was laying it on pretty thick. It was a little over the top, but I think it worked because after the shit hit the fan, they were like, fuck this dude, Mando was coming through and they're like, get him and blah, blah. And he's actually putting pressure on, just him. He's putting pressure on. And the dude's straight up giving all the guys, he just said, yeah, well, we're going to, raise your taxes or whatever he said. And then he gives them a gun like they're about to use it for killing Mando. And honestly, I'm looking at him like, which one of these guys is going to straight up grab it and shoot this asshole?
Right.
Yeah. I like the snow trooper's prepared to defend yourself. He's just he's not putting up with. He's standing right behind him. It's it almost was reminiscent of not behind enemy lines. What was the Russian sniper
Enemy
movie?
at the Gates.
Enemy at the Gates, where it's the guy in front of you will have the gun and you will run after him. When he drops it, you will pick it up. That guy's you will pick up a gun or I will shoot you dead right here as a traitor kind of thing. I had that vibe,
Yeah.
For sure. But what I enjoy too is right off the bat, Barrow's kind of, telling them how they're going to have to, increase their tidings and they should stop bitching so much, about the tidings and figure out more about how they're going to come up with it. We get to see, legit snowtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now they got the little like cover off the front. This is the first time we see that, but we're already getting tie-ins. We're already getting that like reaching back to the franchise vibe, and I enjoyed that a lot.
Well, I also like how they made them look a little worn. Like they've definitely seen some action.
Yeah.
They put some age to the wardrobe, and I thought that's really cool because you're still used to seeing the stormtroopers in 4, 5, and 6 clean and pristine, but now here they look a little more worn. They've got some age on them, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I think they also missed a little bit of opportunity to like enrich the scene. I don't know if you noticed that all 3 of the AT-ATs were walking they were traveling in a line on what looked to be the very top of a fucking mountain with a barely any measure of error to like not fall into the ravine. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I was waiting for Legolas to show up and say, "There's a foul thing on the air."
There's a foul voice on the air, Gandalf. Yeah, it could have probably taken just a moment to see Mando just take a look at the path that they were going and to be like, we'll hit them here. You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of guess if you're kind of really thinking about why did this situation happen here. It's like, well, probably because this was the worst spot that it could happen. It's like on a freaking mountain where there's barely a margin of error for them to actually fall into the ravine.
Yeah, but, it is a getaway scene. Although it's not, jump into the car and drive through the city at breakneck speed. It's, jump out of the snow base into these AT-ATs, which I did like too. They look familiar, but they're a little bit different than the original AT-ATs. So you can tell there's been a little bit of development. But also, this is where we really get into the John Wick of it. I mean, almost like the horror thing, like Matt was mentioning, where you kind of see the shadow and him whipping by the doors and things like that. And then guys like, dying and getting pulled away and stuff. But then he gets into the AT-ATs and he's fighting the snowtroopers. Dude, that is 100% John Wick style of fighting going on there between him and the rest of them.
Yeah.
And we never have seen that
Yeah.
in a Star Wars film before. It's usually people shooting at each other from great distances, mostly missing if you're a stormtrooper, or lightsaber battles. But now you got a guy who's just running over these guys and doing flips and kicks and just John Wick moves. I mean, everything's short of but grabbing guns, double tapping them, one in the head, 2 in the chest kind of thing. But it was, it definitely took a page out of the John Wick book, and I thought that was really cool because that's how I picture a Mandalorian fighting.
The closest thing to that we get is the Robot Chicken version where Luke on Hoth, he throws the thermal detonator inside the AT-AT and blows up the dude who's in the bathroom.
Yeah, I like that scene too. First off, I love how they did the one take, and it was a really good launch shot of seeing Melo going at the stormtroopers and like going that was very engaging in my second watch. Like that was the movie I wanted to see, him hunting down, like we kind of got it, but like I think that opening was really cool. I wish we kind of had the John Wick movie of like him hunting down the last remaining like imperial generals or whatnot, crime lords that were from the old empire. That could have been a very interesting story to do. But I thought this opening was a really good way to reintroduce his character, and it was well like choreographed. And I think that's one thing I liked about this movie. The fight choreography and like just the action in general is well staged and like just takes you back in the silver age of the Simonon of westerns and action in general.
Yeah, the action was good. That's for sure.
And I even like the ending. I mean, when they get there and he does that escape. Now I have to ask you guys: did any of you recognize the little ship that he escapes out of the AT-AT?
Yes, I had to look it up because you had mentioned it at some point prior. I can't remember what we were talking about, where we were talking, but I remember you mentioning that it was some sort of Kenner toy or something. So you have to tell us the details because I don't know the full details, but I do remember you talking about that.
Yeah, so that is actually one of the Kenner mini rigs from the 80s. I believe that was issued during the Empire. It's the INT-4 Interceptor, and it was a little mini rig. Never been seen again. Just off camera, we never got to see before. So finally, the camera captured it. We got to see it, and now we're getting our second fan service like right out the gate. And these are things like you gotta be a super fan on some of this stuff. I mean, the snowtroopers pretty obvious. The AT-AT's got that home feel, but you got to be a super nerd like me to go, oh, it's the Kenner toy. Dude, they put it in the movie. That is so awesome, you know? So, yeah, I was totally stoked to see that little mini rig come barreling out of that AT-AT like that. I thought that was just a really, really nice bit of fan service there.
And for the kids, that scene was really fantastic because Mando is like sitting in a in an AT-AT that any moment the thermal detonators are gonna go off, and you have Grogu being like, it was just so good.
What happened on that helmet? Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, it was just so good. It was so good. That makes it, I mean, the anticipation for an adult, you can tell that there's some serious shit going on. And at any moment, bad things are going to happen. And then for the kids, I think they can kind of realize there's something wrong. And you got that cute little scene with Grogu. And I thought that was like really, really well done.
Yeah. And then our last little bit of fan service is when he gets picked up. Do you guys know who that character is that gets him?
Yeah. Zeb.
Yeah, from Rebels.
Yeah. And he's flying in on the UT-60D or the U-Wing as we know it from Rogue One. So I'm going to point every one of these out as we go, guys, because like there's just all these little things that they are going to tie into every one of these movies that comes before this Mandalorian series for fan service. You know, I believe, again, this is a bit of a love letter to like try to get you to come back. Again, it's one of those like, look,
yeah,
those other movies didn't mean anything to me, man. It's just you and me. Like, I understand. Like, I'm going to bring it all back. We're going to make it.
We're going to make Star Wars great again.
Yeah. We're going to make Star Wars great again. It's going to be the best movie you've ever seen. It's going to be fantastic.
It's gonna be great.
I got some great people here working on it. It's going to be awesome. It's just all these little details that you're picking up on, like, oh, that's from here and that's from there, that I think is just, it's tying that whole universe together, and it's making the fans appreciate it, because now you're going to get a solid story, and we're going to get all these little tidbits that we're going to be looking for now, because like, oh man, this thing is just laden with Easter eggs, and I want to find them all.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point that you're making here, Tim, especially because when you compare it to what we've been having brought to us on the, big screen or at the home screen.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the Witcher, the writers were like, yeah, well, you know what? I know we got all this source material that's fantastic and vetted and everyone loves it and so good that they made video games. We're just going to do our own shit, So that actually does mean something. I think that's a really nice gesture moving in the right direction. So I agree with you, Tim.
This movie's called Mandalorian and Grogu, but honestly, I think it could have been called Grogu and Mandalorian, because it seems like this movie also kind of helps push more of that relationship between Mando and Grogu. We get more of Grogu in this film, I would think more character development.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way that they introduced him, because we got a little bit of nostalgia. We had that little RC car looking droid like driving through that's going to like signal for more troops. And then who happens to save the day? But it's Grogu. He uses the Force to destroy that thing so it can't signal the reinforcements. And I just like how they established each character through their own little hero scene.
Strengths.
Yeah.
And I also want to dip into the little nostalgia that Tim was talking about with the Kenner toy. Mando gets to ride a single rider chicken walker.
Yeah.
I have yet to see that in a movie. And when I saw it there, I'm like, oh, sweet. Because I've only ever seen it as a toy. I've never actually seen it in a movie or a cartoon.
Clone Wars cartoon.
I'm not real savvy on the Clone Wars cartoon. I'm still behind by several seasons. But yeah, I just thought it was cool to see it in live action.
Yeah, they had them in video games too, like the Star Wars Battlefront.
Oh, that was really awesome.
Tim did bring up Zeb and how Zeb was the one that picked up Mando and piloted him back to the New Republic headquarters. And, just to kind of like continue on from that to kind of continue the story a little bit, I like how that when we see them pull up to the planet, we have like a classic Western scene with like the sun is rising or setting, but then you see the X-Wings come in, and I'm like, this feels like watching a classic Western where you have the hero riding off into the sunset, or riding in from the sunset, like in High Plains Drifter. He got the heat wave and he kind of rides into his quote hero scene. I just thought that was really cool. I mean, it felt like a classic Western mixed with Star Wars, kind of like the Mandalorian series felt when I was first watching it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of that character, what's his name? From Rebels, Rips? That's what you call it?
Zeb?
Zebs, yeah. I thought the character was really neat. That the special effects on his character was really good. Like, was kind of there. I kind of wish he was in the Ahsoka show. Then here, like, it's kind of weird that he knows these characters. Like, was he in the show?
He showed up in an episode of The Mandalorian.
I seen like the recap of the shows.
The planet that they're operating from, Zeb runs into one of the X-Wing pilots that ended up running into Mando. So there's a connection in there.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's that. I think it's the pilot that we see at the end. It's that Captain Carson Teva.
Yes.
Which
yes.
is, I think, Paul Sun Hyun Lee or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's a regular. He was in several of those episodes, and that's who he's interfacing with Zeb.
Yeah.
Something that Andrea said that also was said by my son when we were talking about this. So he went to go see it twice, and he said that on his second viewing, he was able to like really kind of zero in on some of the really minute details. And he had mentioned that he really paid attention to how often did a special effect really not play out the way that it was intended. And he said that it was actually really good. Like most of the special effects looked really solid, and none of the special effects brought me out of a suspension of disbelief. They all looked pretty damn good. Even Zeb at first, you're like, wait a minute, is that real? Like, that's not real, but it looked good. It looked good. It was one of those moments where I was like, second take, and then I was like, yeah, that is a special effect. But then it never again dawned on me, any of the special effects, that like, they were jarring. They were not jarring, to me at least.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that they did to pull us back into this old series again is they used some real effects.
Yes.
They didn't rely completely on digital, man. They pulled it out. They pulled out some stop motion and everything. So it's got some of that old IML feel to it. So
yeah, that's one thing I appreciate. Jon Favreau is always good at implementing the CGI with practical effects very well. That's always something that's always tough with these movies now, that like they don't know how to balance that.
There's just something about practical models that kind of help bring the story forward. It makes you feel like it's actually occupying that physical space. And I've always liked when they can combine both CGI modeling and classic modeling. It kind of just really helps the story.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, there's something about having practical effects. It's done well.
Yes.
Not shitty practical effects. I mean, we've seen a lot of that, but I mean, and we've talked about in other movies, like American Werewolf in London, The Hand. I still think that looks fantastic, and that was done how many years ago? The original Star Wars stuff, most of that still looks pretty good. I mean, and it's, I think we've seen it later be reproduced in CGI, and we're like, that doesn't look right anymore now. There's something about the way the practical stop motion stuff just worked better. Felt more real. You just sense it. Your eyes just can tell sometimes.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, so, Mando and Zeb and Grogu wind up traveling back to the home base for the New Republic. Mando, he cashes in his call card to let him know that, okay, I took this guy out. We're introduced to Ward. We find out that she's kind of Mando's handler, and she's the one that gives him the assignments and works out all the fine minutiae of his fees and costs in helping out the rebels. Thought it was really a nice little kid moment where you see Grogu sitting there and he's kind of using the Force to bring that bowl of, I don't know, popcorn, peanuts, whatever, so that he could have a snack. And I just thought that's an adorable little scene while we're getting some exposition. And I got to hand it to both Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and the fact that they can use fun little scenes embedded into areas of exposition. And we get to Mando's next assignment, and we also get this nice little explanation about what's going on with the Hutts and their criminal empire, and they kind of like break everything down to Mando as to what he needs to do next to help the Republic. And he's kind of like at first like, no, I don't think so. That's when we're introduced to a new Razor Crest ship. And I just thought that this whole sequence of him getting back to his roots just kind of helped really pull on those nostalgia strings in my heart.
I tell you what, man, it's too bad that we could not have Carl Weathers as his go-to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's too bad. But it was, I guess it was all right. Something that my son said, a lot of the lines that were read is that he wasn't too impressed with the acting, in particular with Pedro Pascal. But yeah, he was, like I said, he saw it twice, and he said that while there was many things to like about this movie, he said that some of the, what would have been heavy hitters really didn't bring their A game with the acting chops, you know?
Yeah.
Tim, I know you were saying something about this at one point in time. We were talking off recording.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just I think Pedro Pascal's got an enormous head. I mean, I feel like he's the one that really wrecked The Mandalorian, and he may be partially the reason we got the season 3 that we got, because he's just got to the point where he's like, you know what, I want to take the helmet off. I don't want to act with the helmet on all the time. And they're clearly like, look, you took on this character. You understood that part of his creed is the helmet never comes off. And I mean, it did a little bit, but there was part of the storyline. It made sense. And he's just got to the point where he's like, well, if I can't take the helmet off, then you don't need me. You can have somebody else be in the suit and I'll just come in and do my line. So I feel like he phones it in. Like, I think he's just gotten real big of himself. And I've come to respect him less and less and less as time goes on. And I'm so overseeing him at everything, everywhere, all the time. So I think some of it is just him phoning in, like he just doesn't really fully vest himself into the character. I think Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder, the guys who's in the suit for this film, as far as their acting and their chops and their fighting and all that, I think those guys took it seriously. In fact, one of the guys wrote an entire book, like, this is how the Mandalorian should act. It's like his Bible, and he would make them reshoot certain things if they didn't film it correctly. Like, they'd have him grab, Grogu with this right hand and go do something, and they film it, and he's like, no, Mandalorian would never do this. He's a mercenary. His gun is on his right hip. He would always grab Grogu with his left, so his gun hand would be free. Like, these are the rules we have to live by. This is the way. This is how this character should be presented. And I think that's what Pedro Pascal's not bringing to the character. He just doesn't give a shit. He's just there to say his lines, get his adulations, and get his paycheck.
Yeah, I don't even go as far as to say Sigourney Weaver really didn't bring her A game either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That was my biggest complaint, that is her characters. Like,
it felt disingenuous.
Yeah, there's more to say about that.
She played the role she was given. She played the role of a handler, I mean, even if it was Carl Weathers, I think it would have been like the same thing.
You know what the problem is? Sigourney Weaver's too big.
Yeah.
She's too big for the role. Carl Weathers was not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we accepted him, but you see Sigourney Weaver, you're like, it's fucking Ripley.
Yeah.
I can't get past this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I agree. George Lucas had a rule. I'm not going to put big name characters in my films. The biggest one he ever did was Mace Windu, was with Samuel L. Jackson. But fucking Samuel L. Jackson brought it. He made you believe he was Mace Windu. He was into that shit.
Hell yeah, dude. He didn't fucking yell once, I don't think. He was the calmest motherfucker.
I want these motherfucking Sith off my motherfucking ship.
But, the other thing we got from his ass was the purple fucking lifesavers. He's like, wait a second. We're going to have different colors. And that opened the whole Pandora's box. Now we can have all fucking different colors. That's how Ahsoka's got white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. But, what was his only request? He just looked at George Lucas and said, if you cast me, the only thing I ask is you don't let my character go out like a bitch. And he didn't. He did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
I think that's Sigourney's she's too distracting, and she wanted to be in this movie because she wanted to be in it with Grogu, because she loves fucking Grogu, and every woman does. It's just women, children, everybody loves Grogu.
Yeah. Really, that's the reason she joined, is because of that baby Yoda? Oh my God.
That's what I heard, but I mean, and not to take anything away from her, but yeah, she just felt more distracting. She was a minus instead of a plus.
Yeah. Rest his soul, Carl Weathers, amazing actor. Like, he gave it gravitas, gave the handler like a personality, and Sigourney can give some personality to characters like, Ripley, and she could have been a great bounty hunter, actually. I don't know. I just felt like her being just the handler just like was so wasteful and all that.
Yeah, because when it was Carl Weathers, let's face it, he brought Chubbs 2.0. That's what he brought.
Yes.
He fought a gator, lost his hand, and he's still not going to relent in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
He's going to bring it.
Yeah.
The one guy I think that could have taken that role that Sigourney did would be Ian McShane, the guy that does Winston Scott from the John Wick series.
Oh.
He's kind of already got this history of being like the handler for things.
I think he's too embedded with John Wick now.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should have swallowed their damn pride. They should have got on their hands and knees and gone back and asked Gina Carrero to come back. That's who they should have had play that role.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can like she was great in the early series, and she'd have been great as a rebel. Now she's a rebel leader because she was rebel before.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So she would have been a great pick.
Yeah.
And they should have done like, look, we know bad things have had transpired. We want to make it right. Look at what we got going on with this movie. Please come back. Please be part of this. You know what I mean? And here is a chunk of forgiveness cash. I mean,
And you know what? You're right, Tim, because if my memory serves correct, I think that was the first sins against the Star Wars fandom was that move. So I think that would have actually been a very nice gesture. You're right, Tim.
And the fans would have went nuts because they liked her character. Her character was badass,
Yeah.
Speaking of characters, so I think this would be a good opportunity to kind of touch a little bit on Mando's job now. So he has to go out and talk to the Hutt twins so that he gets the information on how to save Rada, their nephew, who is Jabba the Hutt's son, who is on the moon Shikari, so that they can give him the information onto where the supposed Commander Coin is, who used to be a former Imperial officer who is now trying to build up his own crime syndicate while fighting some other. And it's just like, this seems kind of convoluted. Why can't you just send Mando out to find Coin?
Because nobody knows who he is. He's the blank card. You know what I mean? So it's a bit of like, we know he exists, but nobody's ever gotten a picture of this.
He's Kaiser Sose.
Yeah, he's Kaiser Sose, exactly, kind of thing. So I think that's what it is. It's not a bad little trope to throw in there, kind of thing. It's
just from somebody who works with engineers, and you see over engineering of a storyline, you're like, this seems kind of convoluted, but what the heck? It's a movie. We're going to go into it. We get a chance to see the Hutts in their in another environment that's not Tatooine.
Yeah.
And we get to see some pretty darn good CGI of Hutts. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, and now that, but now you'll get to see the Hutts, like you said, but we get to see the new Razor Crest. We can't go past this. I mean, what do you guys feel? We got the Razor Crest, and then it got blown up in, season 2, which I'm sure pissed off a lot of fans who just bought their new HasLab crowdfunder, $350 Razor Crest to watch it get blown up 2 weeks after its release, kind of thing. But are you guys happy to see the ship back? Did you like the other one that he had, the Naboo fighter that was kind of converted? What's your thoughts?
I like the new Razor Crest, and I particularly like the fact that it's all stock. So when he gets into it, he wants to do all the stuff, but he can't because it's not his old Razor Crest.
He's got to falconize it.
Yeah, I'm like, this feels a little nostalgia happening.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I did like the old Naboo fighter, but this new Razor Crest I thought was definitely pulling at the old nostalgia strings.
Yeah. It's a cool ship. I kind of wish they built maybe build it up towards the end of the movie. I'm happy he has his favorite ship back, but oh wow, that quickly. And I think you could have maybe built up to the ship's return and see it progress into this now his new ship. But overall, it's a good. I love the ship. I like the colors. I like the little streak in the front. It's pretty cool, and
Well, I think what you're missing in this, Andreas, is that I like the Falcon, which is this, hunk of junk that belongs to Han Solo. It's a very particular ship, you know what I mean? And it has its own little history. The thing about him getting a new Razor Crest is she basically just handed him a classic hot rod. Because, again, this has got to get into uber geekdom here, but it's an ST-70 assault ship. These things predate the Empire. So to have one sitting at that base that's completely pristine is like somebody going, yeah, we found this like super rare sports car. There's only, so many of them left on the planet, because all the rest of them are gone, kind of thing. And this one's mint. I mean, so it really is a pretty spectacular reveal that she was able to find one of these. And in the sense of giving it to him, it's one of those like, we really want you to keep working for us. So here's the ship. But upon your acceptance of it, it kind of makes you an indentured servant because you're going to have to do a couple more things for us in order to really pay off what we just gave you, because this is not a $30,000 hot rod anymore. This is a $200,000 hot rod we just gave you. So you're going to have to work for us a little bit more, but we want to make sure we make it worth your while.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Yeah, because after that, he, accept the next mission. Just picking back what Matt said about the plot, the actor they have here that played the coin, whatever his name was, this wasn't cut it. Despite he's like a character actor, maybe. I think you could have maybe put like a famous actor that we know that might be kind of cool, but I don't know.
See, you can't do that though, because Coin shows up in the Mandalorian series. We see him before, except he's just he's in one of the episodes, but he's with a bunch of other officers at that point.
Oh yeah, in the holograms.
He is a direct tie-in to the Mandalorian series, so it's not like they just pulled him out of thin air. But he was, again, not super well known.
Yeah.
He's legitly ties into the series, which I thought was nice, and even the Ride of the Hutt thing. I mean, to have him be an unknown, that gets us to some reason why we have to go see the Hutts. So that's why I don't think it's that convoluted. Like, they got to have a reason to get him to the Hutts. The Hutts are going to give the information if you go save Rada, which Rada, again, is another tie-in too. Rada of the Hutts, that's Stinky from the very first 2 episodes, or the quote-unquote movie that they released for the Clone Wars. So that's the one that Ahsoka's like, come on, Stinky, and she throw him in the back of the backpack, and her and Anakin are charged to like protect him or whatever. That's a Huttlet. When you see that little hologram come up, like, we don't have a more recent picture. That's the exact reproduction of a hologram from the actual cartoon.
Right.
So yeah. So all this kind of ties in a nice little bow if you just know where it all fits.
This is where the movie gets kind of a problem with me. It's like, oh, some of this is from the show, and it's like, I had to remember that this is tying into the show,
No, it's all good. It's like I said, it's a love letter to the fans, and it's a love that had been going on for a long time. So you really got to be vested in paying attention to all the details to get what they put into this movie. They really dug deep, and some of it's apparent, some of it's not.
So 2 things I got to say before we start talking about these Hutts. One, you probably do need to say sorry, Andreas, because you said that those yellow fucking stripes were cool, man. Fuck that. They should have been black, all right? They should have been black. Some cool fucking color, man. Yellow? Fucking yellow? Nah, dude. Nah, bro.
I'm sorry. Look. Oh, whoa. Hey, look. If it was green, it could be cool. But
it could be cool.
Yeah, but look, I mean, Batman has Lilo in his costume, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, I'm used to that.
This dude's a Mandalorian, man. You either go all the way silver or metallic, or you could throw in some black accents, and that's pretty much about it, dude.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is that Mando had a problem with working for a Hutt, And I thought that was a really interesting moral dilemma that builds and it develops into really like a creed that is being portrayed through Din Djarin, that he's got boundaries that he's not crossing, the code. That I found, I really like that stuff. I think that really does make more to the story because it's a level of conflict. It is the traditional man versus himself. He has a problem with doing certain things. And even if it's going to make things more difficult, he's just not going to do those things.
Yeah, it's something that help establishes the hero. Because if you have a hero that has a creed, well, I would almost say like an Apollo creed,
Hey!
We should not start this.
There's a line that he's not going to cross. And I think that's a true sign of a great hero character.
Yeah, that is exactly what wasn't being done with a lot of these female characters that we've seen in the past 5 years or so. They have all the advantages, and they don't have any disadvantages. They don't have any moral dilemmas. They don't have any code of honor. It's very hard to relate to that. Because that's not how people live. People have principles in real life.
And he's not just saying that from a male perspective.
No, for everyone.
Yes. So any ladies who have some hate mail for Rick, free to email the show.
Dungeon Master Elite.
I think what the show is too is the only thing 3 was good for is it showed us that there's different sects of Mandalorians. And they don't all share the same moral code.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually stayed very true to the Mando character because he's decided that he really wants to help the Republic and he wants to only take jobs that have meaning and aren't shady. And I mean, that's how the whole series starts. I mean, it starts with him not giving up Grogu. So it's very consistent with his character. And I enjoy that. Like that they're maintaining this consistency with his character and his sect of Mandalore.
I totally agree with you there. That's solid commentary.
Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
Since we're talking about Rada and we kind of now know what Mando has to do, and we talked about the Razor Crest, let's kind of move a little forward then. So, Mando now reluctantly accepts the assignment, and he visits the twin siblings of Jabba the Hutt and learns that Rada is on a planet called Shikari. What I thought was kind of neat is we get to see Nal Hutta. I assume that this is like the home planet for the Hutts. When he shows up, it almost reminds me a little bit of like Endor, maybe even a little bit of like the bayou swamps of Louisiana.
Bro, it was weirder than Endor, man. Like, I thought that I'm pretty sure that I saw some weird Hutts rolling around together.
Yeah, there was definitely some weird, I don't know, sluggy looking stuff.
Weird things happening in this movie.
Yeah. So, but I thought it was neat that we actually get to see like the home planet for the Hutts, because you think of Jabba the Hutt, you're thinking about a sand planet, and I'm like, he just kind of always looked slimy, and this planet kind of just kind of fit in with what you think of a Hutt to be. So we get to see their species and how they exist in this universe, and just how crazy that their quote citadel. It looked like a mushroom kind of grew with a tree to create this huge like the building that they live in. It's more universe building on the end of David Filoni and Jon Favreau.
It was weird because I've played so many games like in Star Wars and stuff where we've ended up at Nal Hutta before that I felt like I'd already seen it and been there. Like it's just, I was like, I don't know. It felt super familiar to me, even though I know I've never seen it visually, before. But it was just like, it feels just like I think it should, So it was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was so cool that the Hutts were using the droids from the prequel trilogy. That was a cool aspect when we get to that planet. As a as a person who grew up with the prequel trilogy, it was like very nice to see those androids being used.
Hold on, before you say any further, I gotta interrupt. Just to be clear, Dungeon Master Elite does not endorse the enslavement of AI in any way possible. Just putting it out there, okay? Go ahead, Andreas.
Yeah, sure. Big question. What were you guys' thoughts on, both the Hutts and Rada speaking English? Because that was something that me and my friend were talking about. That was like, it was weird.
Yeah.
We used to seeing the Hutt speaking in their alien language. When we saw the twins and they started speaking English a little bit, I was like, wait, what the hell?
It's not English. It's called Basic, okay?
Basic. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my God.
So stop saying English and be what you really are. Basic, okay?
Basic.
Shit. Bro, you gonna take that, Andreas?
Dude. Yes, as a Latino person, I take this as offensive. So basic as well. All right. So fine. Basic language of human condition or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it was weird at first, and I was fine with it with the Rada, because Rada was in the off planet, so like it makes sense for him to speak English. What are you guys' thoughts about that? Because I'm like indifferent about it. Like,
yeah, I think like practically it makes sense. The age that they're targeting, I think it kind of makes sense. They probably don't want to be reading all the subtitles or having things repeated through some sort of stupid protocol droid. However, you're right. It is kind of weird.
Yeah, but it's not the first time we see it, though. We see it with Zero the Hutt in the Clone Wars. He talks about it, or he talks basic all the time, too. And I thought even Jabba said a few basic words.
Yeah.
Didn't he at one point in Jedi?
Yeah,
so,
a little bit.
So they can do it. I think it's just one of those, we're Hutts and we choose not to.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of an arrogance.
Does that also translate with why the Wookiees did? Bit of arrogance?
No, I think with the Wookiees, it's their throats can't form the words because it's more guttural and dog speak. I don't know.
Wow, bro. Okay.
No, Matt's not wrong, because in one of the books, I think it's in the Heir of the Empire trilogy, isn't there's actually a that can speak basic, and I think it was Leia that was interacting with him, and she was really shocked. He's like, "Yeah, I'm actually was born with a defect that allows me to speak basic."
Yeah.
And the rest of the Wookiees couldn't. So Matt, I think, is spot on with that.
Yeah. Because I read that book. I don't know which one it is, but
I can't remember either, but yeah.
Rick, I do want to call you out on something though. You did say that an annoying droid translator robot. Well, what's powering that translator robot? An AI program. So are you already dissing an AI program that's doing its core?
No. I was saying through the perspective of a youngster who would be annoyed with having to read the stuff.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, as an audience member.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Now, me personally, I enjoy hearing protocol droids do their work. Especially when they're telling you the odds.
DME3, what are the odds that we'll go to the next scene in the next 25 seconds?
I think the odds are 374 to 1.
I'll take that action.
We've spoken about Nal Hutta. We know that they're trying to find Rada, and then we go from that planet to the next planet, which is Shikari. And I love this planet because when we show up, it feels to me a lot like Blade Runner. I mean, seeing the planet coming in, it wasn't quite like Coruscant. It was a very populated area.
Yeah.
It had lots of buildings and everything, but it felt more like that Ridley Scott film Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Humanoids and aliens, and it felt kind of gritty.
I think part of that comes from the music, man.
Yeah.
That soundtrack, dude, is killer, man.
See, I didn't like the soundtrack. I felt like it was a little too, I don't know. It didn't embrace the Star Wars feel, I didn't think. Now, don't get me wrong, when we watch the Mandalorian series, it's not exactly Star Wars music, but it's like Western themed Star Wars. It fit it, and I think they should have stuck with that with this, because to tell you the truth, I like your Blade Runner analogy as far as the way it looked, but the music made me feel like I was watching a John Carpenter film.
Okay.
Like, it made me feel like Escape from New York is what it made me think of, because the music sounds a lot like that stuff that John Carpenter likes to use.
the synth kind of feel to it.
Yeah. I liked it, man. I liked it. I thought that, I mean, I get what you're saying, how it kind of changes the vibe, but I liked how it made it feel more, action-packed, thrilling, a lot of anticipation for what's going to happen, especially when we start talking about gladiatorial arenas and things. I thought that it was cool, man. The city life.
I totally disagree, Tim. I love the music. The year I went with my friend gave us like pamphlets of like how we felt about the film. And I say in my pamphlet, when we got to, didn't say the score, the music, I say excellent. It was, I mean, first off, this, Ludwig, the composer, I mean, he's a 3-time Oscar winner. I mean, he did both Black Panther movies. He did Sinners recently. He got his third win there. And Oppenheimer, like, this guy is killing it. And I thought his score for the Melo was fantastic. He hit it like 11. Like, he was like, I'm a 3-time Oscar winner. I'm going to show off. And like, that's what he did. I love the score. It's so Western. Like, that's the thing. Like, it has that mix of Western, but sci-fi.
Yeah.
And he composed the show. So he obviously brought the theme and expanded upon it in such a good way in this movie. So I love the score. It's really fantastic. It kept my attention to this movie whenever it was like quiet moment. Like, the score just like kept me like going. And I agree. I love the city. Not, it's not Coruscant. Nothing will beat Coruscant. I really dug the city because I love the neon lights and like you see the different creatures and the humanoids, right? This is my favorite part of the movie, is this section, because it felt like it was a movie, It felt like, okay, here's the story. We get to the other plot points, is like, oh,
right.
Because this felt like a movie, This is where the practical stuff really comes to light. The city looks real, like, which is really awesome, and like all the CGI is integrated really well, and like you see the creatures effects like spot on here. Like the birds in that bar, it was so funny. Like, they're real. I was like, thank God the Lord they did that, because if they were CGI, I was like, hell no. I love how it was puppeteering, like the Jim Henson, which is awesome.
Right. I'm gonna piggyback on some of what you said for the score. I like when the score has a variation on a classic theme. Case in point, you hear the Mandalorian's theme every once in a while throughout the film. Whenever he has like a heroic moment, or they're trying to key into that emotion you get from hearing the quote hero's theme. And I love how there's like a slight variation to it on each planet, a slight variation to it into the movie from the TV series. There's just something about that kind of like, again, pulls on those nostalgia heartstrings. I mean, I realize that the Mandalorian, concept is only, 3 or 4 years old, but just the fact that it's something familiar melded into this new environment, I thought works really well to, again, help expand the universe. And another thing that I kind of noticed about expanding this universe, the story itself still seems kind of small, because after Mando lands on the planet of Shikari, he goes to get information on where Rada's at. He goes to a little vendor selling, a little food shack. It feels a little bit like in Blade Runner when Harrison Ford's character went and got some noodles. I mean, he was kind of having that same interaction. That's kind of how it felt. It felt more close knit and a more personal storytelling going on. And we get a really good cameo there too that I think we need to highlight as well.
The Ardenian?
Yes. What did you what do you think of our Ardenian guy making the motions and the gestures, kind of like,
Well, I mean, it's first off, it's totally the only real tie-in to the Solo movie. So it kind of reminds me of the Saint Anger album from Metallica. It's like they play one song from it and act like they never made the album. It's kind of like, we'll put this Ardenian in and then we'll pretend like that movie never happened, kind of thing. But yeah, I was kind of glad to see him. I always liked that character in the Solo film. It was kind of cool to see another one in this film, and he was very lively. It was just kind of like, nothing happened. You didn't see anything. You were never here. Look, just take the sandwich, go away. So I enjoyed the interaction with the.
Oh, is that the one with that's the one that voiced by Martin Scorsese?
Yes.
Yes. He was great. He was like, oh my God, this Italian alien. Like,
I mean, he even looked like Scorsese. He kind of had like those big bushy eyebrows, and all he needed was like, black rimmed glasses when he was talking. I'm like, this feels like Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, the two scenes we got him was like Seed Stealer, man. Yeah, he did the good alien food there. That was so correct. Like, I was just cracking up with that character. Scorsese in a Star Wars movie, that's insane.
That is a bit weird. I do like, again, where we have, towards the end of one of their interactions, he throws a bunch of money. He's like, I didn't even give you any information. He's like, no, it's for his tab.
Yeah.
I like that everywhere Grogu goes, like you guys pointed out earlier, when he's trying to munch on her snacks on the desk and things like that. That Grogu is very much the Rusty Ryan character in Ocean's 11, where he's just always eating.
Yeah.
Grogu's always eating all the way through everything. Like, every moment he can, if there's a chance, he's eating food. And that's kind of what he reminds me of, is that Brad Pitt character.
I was going to go to another franchise and say he reminds me of a Hobbit, always wanting to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Hobbit. Yeah.
Yeah, but Hobbit's whine about it. Grogu just doesn't.
Yeah,
like,
that's
he's just
true.
like, I'm just going to eat. Like, and he's just, everywhere he goes, he manages to find food. Whether it's crackers, or he gets somebody to throw him some food, or he's stealing it, or
he's
whatever.
committing genocide by eating frog eggs.
Yeah.
I love that character. Best Star Wars character for just 2 seats ever.
Yeah. I like the fact that Mando goes to this guy. He gets the information. He asks him, if he knows who Rada the Hutt is. And that's when we find out that Rada has, he's a celebrity on the planet. He's been fighting in the pits. So he gets information as to how to find Rada's contract holder, Janu, this guy who's running basically the tire plant. He's a crime lord. It's neat that Mando's going down the line, just getting information, going to the next step. And, he finds out that Rada is being held and fighting in Janu's pits. He goes in and he goes to talk to Rada after checking out him fighting in the pits. And I thought that this was very, very coincidental that here we have the character Pedro Pascal watching a fight in a gladiatorial pit, when just last year he was in that movie that was a sequel of the Russell Crowe movie called Gladiator.
Anyone know if it was any good? I didn't see it either.
I didn't see it either. So
I hear it was decent, but it's not going to beat the original.
Gotcha. The Mandalorian gets to see Rada the Hutt fight in this ring, and I thought it was kind of neat. It had a lot of hallmarks of those classic gladiator film tropes. Just a cool scene. You could clearly tell that Rada is CGI, but he didn't feel like he stood out as CGI. It was good effects. As
It was no episode 4 CGI. Let's put it that way.
yeah. So I thought it was a really cool sequence. I thought it was neat that we get a little more backstory onto Rada. I love the fact that we already have preconceived notions of what a Hutt is like. And to see Rada is like the complete opposite of what Jabba and Jabba's siblings are like. I just thought that was kind of almost like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I did too, man. I thought that was super cool. And I guess if you think about it, kind of makes one wonder if Hutts weren't living the lifestyle that they do, then I wonder if this is how they would be. Like, would they be like physical powerhouses and stuff like that, But yeah, that's cool, man. I also thought it was cool.
See, I find it interesting that a lot of people found it off-putting that he's stacked and built. Like, I thought that was cool. So, fuck, I never thought about it. But yeah, why wouldn't Hutts? I mean, they're ginormous. Like, why wouldn't one buff up like that? I thought he looked kick-ass, and some people are like, nah, it just looks stupid. There's no reason for Hutt to be like that. I'm like, why not? I mean, if you look at him, upper body is nothing but a frame for a bodybuilder. Like, it was really cool to see that. I'm like, man, can you imagine like how tough he would be compared to these other ones? And the other ones are like, what are those?
Walrus?
I can't think of what they're called. Are there walruses or some other one too? There's another one. But yeah, I mean, basically they're like walruses.
Manatees.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah, they're like manatees where, yeah, they can move fairly quickly. And if they get on top of you, you're done because they're just going to crush you like a tin can. But I mean, to be muscular like that and have that kind of weight, like, woo, yeah, that's not somebody I want to mess with. I would not want to beat that dude in an arena. Cool, where the rest of the Hutts just live lives of total excess, they're just gluttony, like we would picture them like on the couch with the grapes and shit like that. So
yeah, I kind of agree. I was shocked how well we did with his character. I was so happy that he wasn't the bad guy. He was just trying to live the life and, trying to get out of the shadows of Jabba the Hutt. Like, he was such a relatable character. And I love every moment of him, like, especially his interaction with Grogu is like, okay, you got me in that. Like, just those two were adorable.
Well, and you hit it there, Andreas. I mean, that's what's been lacking in so many of these other Star Wars shows where they have these characters they present to us and we don't give two shits about them. None whatsoever. Like, there's just no redeeming quality to them. Nothing good. They're just ridiculous in the way that they're structured and presented. And this guy has a great backstory. It's relatable. And you just are vested from the get-go with them. And they have been missing that for so long in this franchise.
Yeah. Now, I want to kind of pivot from that and ask this question. So, we see him in the pits fighting. He's had a conversation with the Mandalorian. And he basically says he doesn't want to leave because he's trying to make his way up in the world. Having watched movies, gladiatorial type movies, did anyone just automatically know going into this next couple of minutes that the Mandalorian is going to be fighting him in the pit at some point in this movie? I know immediately I had that feeling.
Yes, I actually had a conversation with AI in the middle of the movie theater, and my protocol droid told me that it was almost inevitable. So, yeah, I pretty much knew what was going to happen.
So it told you the odds, is basically what you're saying.
It told me the odds, man, and they were favorable, okay?
I saw the trailers and I knew that was going to happen. I mean, besides the scene where he raised his hand to cheer on the audience, and then there was the one shot where the Mandalorian using one of his hooks, stopped Hutt in that battle, the second battle, the arena. So I kind of knew that we were going to get that. So it wasn't like a big surprise.
For me, it wasn't so much a shocker. I mean, we knew the Mandalorian was going to end up in there just because, Janny wanted them in there. But what was a shocker was how they presented the arena.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what really, again, this is probably the pinnacle piece here. This arena, I mean, we all know what it is, right? Does everybody here know what the arena is?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Oh!
Other than the fact that it looks like a pit. What's it from?
It's the chessboard from the Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's just like as soon as you see it, you're like, that looks so familiar. And then when they release all the creatures,
Okay.
you're like, oh my God. And you definitely know it because where the one creature comes in, grabs the one and then throws it down and smashes it over its head kind of thing. And it repeats that in this. Those are all the creatures from the chessboard with the actual chessboard as the arena. Dude, this is the ultimate fan kiss of this is it. This is like the ultimate. You're like, holy shit. It's not only did they make it look like the chessboard, it's all the pieces from the chessboard. It's all the creatures from there come to life, you know? So, I mean, it's just greatest fan service moment ever. I just about lost my shit. I was just like, oh!
It's one of those things that, like, it didn't click. Like, I seen the creatures. I'm like, I've seen this before, but I couldn't put 2 and 2 together to make the connection in my synapses.
Yeah.
That is cool. Mind blown. And that, of course, leads to a jailbreak, a prison escape, the Great Escape, whatever kind of classic trope you want to throw in there. You know, the Mandalorian and Rada and Grogu manage to escape, and they release the chess pieces into the Blade Runner society. And I just thought that, okay, here we go. Now we're gonna have a car chase, and it was really cool. The one thing that I thought was a little, what do the kids say, sus?
Yeah.
Is the fact that Grogu like jumps into a little baby carriage, and then that arm like comes down, and now it's a I don't know, speeder bike. How is he controlling that?
Yeah.
You know, he supposedly doesn't fly.
Force.
Okay.
The Force.
So it was neat, but I'm like, okay, it doesn't quite jive.
For as fast as he was going, I see what you're saying.
The 70 mile per hour baby carriage. Yeah, that's a little sus.
Yeah.
With all of these things, I mean, I don't think it took me away too far from the movie because I didn't take this movie super serious. So I was willing to forgive those moments and just kind of just vibe with the movie, you know. And it was, you're right, Matt. It was a lot of good action right there. It was very high intensity, very action packed. It was a good little scene there.
And there's a reason for it. This basic speeder chase on Shikari is a reenactment of the speeder chase on Coruscant between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and the Claudette shapeshifter Zam Wetzel.
Yeah. They even had a line. He said exactly what Anakin said when he jumped into to someone's speeder, and he said, "Yeah,
be right back."
Yeah, he said that, and then he said that he had to on official Jedi business or something like that. But he said something else. I can't remember what he said, but he said the same basic line.
So that they were kind of reenacting that again.
You're right. They were taking lines from that scene.
Yeah, that's a pickup off of that whole chase scene.
But it was still pretty cool. A pretty cool chase sequence. You know, it's no French Connection. It was no, I don't know, Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. And I like the fact that they were able to then, quote, capture or rescue or grab Rada the Hutt. That's when we get to see some cool piloting skills by Zeb, where he comes in and he grabs the rotund but yet ripped Rada the Hutt. For lack of a better word, he's kind of wrapped up in a cargo net. You know, I just thought that was very funny and just a really cool sequence. Along with that, we get some interaction, you know, as I think Rick had mentioned earlier, you know, we see that the Mandalorian's listening to Rada. You know, we learn that, okay, Rada knows who's this coin guy is that the Mando is after, that the New Republic is after, and he basically lets the cat out of the proverbial cargo net and says, hey, you know, coin is Jadu. You know, you get him, you got your prize. You don't need to send me back to the twins, because Rada claims that the twins only want him so that they can kill him and take over the Hutt cartel.
Yeah, well said. And also that whole bit about his Rada saying that his his cousins are going to just double cross him, and that also goes in line with why, in the first place, Mando doesn't want to work with Hutts, because they're a bunch of bitches, you know?
Well, I would say double crossing, but if you want to use the B word, by all means, I won't stop you.
They're a bunch of Chaunceys, all right?
Gotcha. But that kind of like leads us into a pivotal moment, another pivotal action sequence where we get to see the stuff that I liked. I liked being able to see Zeb, Mando, and Rada and Zeb and Grogu kind of like surveil this nice mountain villa on this little island on the planet, and we get to see where Janu lives, and we come up with this heist, I guess, portion of the movie trope. What'd you guys think of the plan and just the quote heist to go in and nab Janu?
It was good. It was a little weird that, this guy's villa is at the end of the world's longest sandbar, and that they're able to land the Razor Crest without being detected at all. That seemed a little fishy, but
Yeah.
I like that Rada gives coin away, and and then basically got the Mandalorian kind of looking at him, questioning whether this is true or not. And he's like, "Look, you're a bounty hunter. You could tell people are lying. Am I lying?" And at that moment, he makes that executive decision. I think this guy's telling the truth. Let's see if we can move this thing forward without having to actually turn this guy over to the Hutt. So it's a very pivotal moment in the story. He gets there and they're like, this place is just stinking with stormtroopers. They're all over the place. And so they're like, well, you're going to need a lot of backup. And he's like, no, we're just going to go in and do it. It's kind of like one of those impulsive things. It's a Leroy Jenkins, if you will. It's like, okay, we got to plan it. It's like Leroy Jenkins, and in they go, man, totally. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a cool moment. There's a few more little, tidbit things like in Lord Janu's office, there's a Nexu, which is the cat from the arena and the Clone Wars hanging up in the wall as a trophy and things. So there's a few little things back in there, but overall, it's a cool fight scene. We get to watch them dispatch a bunch of, stormtroopers. We get, again, to see, as you said, Zeb, do what we know Zeb does. So,
Yes.
it's very cool. And then there's kind of a cool chase scene at the end where, they break out and they got the bad guys following them and they're shooting up. And I think what sells this moment is not really everything that happens there. It's when they're racing back and he's trying to explain to Grogu what he needs to do. And he keeps firing missiles off at him instead of like firing the ship up, to ready it for their escape. So I think that's the best part of the whole scene.
Anybody who has children and has to explain something to a child as to how to do something, this scene definitely tells everything. No, not that button, the other button.
And not only that, but while they're doing their best Leroy Jenkins impression, you've got, Rada and Grogu, taking a quick 5.
Yeah.
I'm awake. Okay, we'll start the ship. You know how to start a ship? I don't know how to start. We don't know how to start a ship, So, it's a nice bit of comedy relief in there, I think.
Yeah, that having Grogu fucking press these buttons and it just gets so much more interesting. It really is pretty fun.
That scene kind of harkens back to me on of Empire when R2 and Yoda are fighting over the little torchlight. That it just kind of reminded me a little bit of that. Exciting moment, as we've said. It's just I loved a narrow escape, and the heroes are winning because that's what we're here to see. We're here to see good guys fighting bad guys, good guys triumphing. Just to see them load up into the Razor Crest and blast off and much like, the Millennium Falcon's trying to get away, Mando's trying to get the Razor Crest to evade and escape. And he's like bypassing stuff left and right to get the Razor Crest to go faster. And I just thought that this is really cool. This is Star Wars. This is pod racing, yo.
Right.
I kind of agree with you guys. Yeah, it just followed very typical action, 101. It was like very routine. That was the thing about it, like that scene. Now, the scene was good. Like the action was really great. It's cool to see like the Mandalorian using the flamethrower. That was cool. Like I like how he uses it. That's the one thing I will say that I like in this movie. He's using different arsenal in his suit and all that. That was great about this movie. They did a good job of mixing up his like equipment or gadgets that he has, right? But yeah, this is where the movie kind of starts to kind of falter a little bit, after this, because this is where we get the episodic kind of like stitching of this movie. That's a shame because this whole part of this section of this movie I was really engaged. But I will say I like the ship attack after this scene. Like that was really good. Like I like how he has to hyperspeed. Jump?
Hyperspace.
Hyperspace, yeah. Thank you. Thank you to
Jumping
save
to
me.
light speed, if you will, sir.
Yes, punch it.
Andreas,
Yes.
hearing you kind of stumble through some of this, I'm almost at that point where I'm going to have to ask you for your Star Wars card.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no. No,
Dude,
please.
you got to commit. You cannot be coming in here half-assed like this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Wait, I was honest with you guys in the pod last week and this week. I'm not a big Star Wars guy, so I'm just a casual fan of this franchise.
All right. As long as you can admit that Han shot first, we'll let you keep the card.
Yes, he shot first. Because he's a handsome man. He knows how to kill people. So that's
You should have just stopped with he shot first.
Mando gets back to the New Republic home planet where his handler's at, and he shows up with Janu, and he explains to Ward that hey, this is Coin. I found him thanks to Rada the Hutt. I was able to bring him in, and Ward's like, well, you were supposed to give Rada to the Hutts. He's like, well, you know what? I got our final person that we needed, so I'm not going to do that. By the way, I'm going to take a little bit of R&R because A, this one took a little out on me, and B, I had this new Razor Crest that I need to modify like the Millennium Falcon. This point, it seems like the storyline has a different feel to it. If everything that leading up to here, it felt like a classic Mandalorian episode. But now we're getting like down home, little house on the prairie kind of Mandalorian where he like goes home and he says goodbye to Rada, and it's just basically him and Grogu and those little itty bitty characters that are smaller than Grogu. I can't remember the name of their character or the name of their species. Anzelians, I think is how they're pronounced.
Sure. I can't remember their names either. So yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. And so they're there to kind of help, work on the Razor Crest and bring it up to Mandalorian's needs. But it felt very much like a homespun kind of feel to it. There's a little bit of humor here and there. And it was a neat little momentary pause in the story.
Yeah, I think that kind of felt episodic. Like you have the normal story arc of exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and then roll credits, but we didn't have that. We have like another story arc we're moving into, which again is probably what some people probably have problems with because this is making it feel a lot more like Mandalorian season 4,
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
That's right where I think it feels like season 4 because you felt like you got to the end. It's like, well, I guess this is where the credits are going to roll, and then it just keeps going. You're like, all right, well, I'm down for more, but it just, yeah. They claim up and down that they wrote this thing from scratch, but I don't think so.
No.
Those guys are famous in the Clone Wars for like mini story arcs within a season where they'll have like 3 episodes that you literally could cut into a movie and it would feel like a movie, and then you move into kind of like the next segment, which relates but not really. And that's kind of where we're at with this one. I think we probably just watched maybe 2 episodes of The Mandalorian that had like a dual like story arc, and then there was a decisive stopping point, and now they're butting up the next episode or something. So I find it very suspect that they did not do that. I mean, because they obviously probably had a bunch of shit that they were going to write for 4, and they're like, there's probably some gold here. We just need to parcel it out and turn it into a movie. So, and if that's the case, it's still not a bad thing. I mean, at least we got the material. And so far, it's been pretty decent. It's been fairly enjoyable. So I'm willing to go with the lull, even though it feels a little forced and clumsy.
Yeah, I mean, they could have made the decision to like kind of flesh out a little more that first half of the movie, and then it would be a gamble though. Like if it didn't turn out, then you'd never see the second half. And if you wanted to go with the second half, which what they did, then it kind of feels a little bit disjointed. So I think I kind of feel like what you were saying, Tim. It's like, all right, well, I'm game. You could keep playing more and stuff. But I mean, as far as how does it actually look in a singular story? Kind of looks a little weird. But yeah, I'm good with it. But it definitely has storyline issues.
They needed to just have a simple scene in there where somebody comes up And basically, you know, like the twins' own Bib Fortuna, where he kind of walks up, he's like, "They're like, what? They're not going to bring us Rada? What the hell? Get me the bounty hunters. We're going to resolve this." Something like that, where they were notified and now they're pissed. And so they're going to send somebody out for him to tie in with the rest of this. And I think that could have balanced it out a little better. Just needed a little something in there.
Yeah, you're right. That would have kept the tension high. Yeah, instead of having this bit of release.
Because you don't understand that it's going to happen. You just feel like you're at the end. It's like, okay, there's nothing going on right now. I mean, literally, there's nothing going on right now. We caught the bad guys, blah, blah, blah. Everything's done. I'm going to go work on my ship. You're not expecting it. It's not like a good not expecting it, like the Spanish Inquisition. Not at all. It's just
nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
There is a little one foretelling sequence, though, because when they come back into Navarra, is it Navarra or Navarro?
Yeah.
Either way. When they fly into Dave Navarro, and there's like there's like one little sequence where you see a guy with what I'm going to refer to as the Captain America shield on his head, and you kind of think, oh, well, that guy's kind of weird. What's he doing there? And I think that was kind of just to establish that there's somebody that's looking for the Mandalorian, but they kind of really don't explain that until later on when we have that whole sequence at night.
Again, super fan geekdom here. That's a known character. So that's Kaizu Embo. I think that's how you say his first name. From the Clone Wars. And he's a bounty hunter, and he hangs out with like Cad Bane and young Boba Fett and R. Singh and things. So like when you see him, if you're super geek, you're like, oh shit, that dude's about to start something, you know, something's about to go down here. So if you know who he is, you know what the expectation is.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't identify him right away, but I knew I seen him before, and I was pretty damn sure that he came from the Clone Wars, and sure as shit he does.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I want to say, though, before we get too far into him, and this is probably just a me thing, but I'm sure other people had to pick this up. So when Mando sends away Rada, remember, he calls in the gunrunner ship. Yeah. Did any of you guys recognize this? Now, I'm gonna have to set the stage for this because it's kind of a weird show, so you might not have ever seen it. It's a kids show, so if you watch it with your kids, and it's a wildly popular show with kids, you're gonna know exactly what this thing is. Did anybody recognize what this ship looks like?
Okay, it looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. I was getting feelings of like Dune and the spice ships they used to gather the spice.
Kids cartoon.
I don't know.
Yeah, man, I thought it kind of looked like a pineapple under the sea, but that's just me.
Okay, so everybody who's listening right now, go look up the Tortuga from the Wild Kratts TV series.
Oh, geez.
It looks exactly like the Tortuga. I swear to God, exactly like it. In fact, I even Googled it, put them right next to each other. I'm like, holy shit. Somebody in the Mandalorian's kid is a big fan of this, and they're like, look, I'm going to put this in there just for you. I'm going to put the Tortuga in Star Wars. So, yeah. So there you go.
It looked like a space rhino.
I'm telling you guys, every one of you, go Google Wild Kratts Tortuga, and you're going to be like, all right. Oh, holy crap, it looks just like it. It even moves. The legs are the same with the way that it lifts and everything.
Jeez, it's a giant turtle. Okay.
Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
It is the Tortuga. I swear to God, somebody is a Wild Kratts fan over there on The Mandalorian.
That is funny.
I would bet anything that somebody's going to be like, yep, somebody finally got it.
Yeah. So this is where I have my biggest problem with this movie. Rather how it goes to an arc that I like, and this is the issue I have with towards the end. Like, his character really surprised me in directions. Like, okay, he didn't want to be part of the crime syndicate. Like, I get that. And then, you know, unfortunately he gets captured again, and then he sees what this rebellion is doing. He wants to join, which I was surprised. Like, oh my God, how going to be like a, you know, rebel? You know, that's cool. You know, and like that's something you don't see in the Star Wars thing. That's a really unique thing with the main characters, right? Like, they've gone through, you know, like hardship and like, you know, trials as, you know, this duo. What's the conflict? And like, you know, what's the hot start challenging these two, you know, characters? It's like, you know, it's not the first time that this character is getting hurt, Grogu getting captured, you know, like, you know, you should thought about what is the challenge and like the the next step of these characters' arcs and like their journey as like a duo. And that's my issue with this movie. Like it's so routine.
Well, I can understand that, but at this point,
Yeah.
it is Grogu starts his growth. Everything up to this point has been about the Mandalorian continuing the journey that he's currently on. You know, he's taking care of Grogu. Grogu's kind of helping out here and there. He has a few force powers and stuff, but at this point in the movie is where we see the script kind of switch, and that's where the things kind of feel a little different, because now we're no longer focused on just the Mandalorian's character. We're now getting more focused on Grogu's character, and this is where Grogu starts his hero's journey. And I think that's the one thing that I liked about the story, is that we're now getting growth from him. The way that they delivered it was what kind of threw me off, made me feel a little weird going into the second half of the movie. And we do see a little bit of character development between the two in this movie.
Yes.
Well, and I think they hint at it though too, because there's a couple times where they look at him and they go, "There'll be a time when you're not around anymore to protect Grogu."
Yeah.
Then what's going to happen? And I think that makes the Mandalorian think, he's like, this little guy is going to outlive me by a long shot. You know, so I think it to him, I think it starts putting into his mind that he has to accelerate some of his lessons and things, because we'll see that towards the end with the ship and things like that.
Yeah.
But also, Grogu's an interesting character because he's an odd character caught between two worlds.
Yes.
He has decided not to follow the Jedi path, but he is still obviously, much like Yoda, very, very, strong in the Force, to the point where he picks up things without even having training. Not quite like Rey, like that incredibly stupid, but little things, and he's kind of just figuring that out for himself. And I don't know if it's because he's just that attuned to the Force, or if that just has something to do with Yoda's race as a whole, but he's still developing some of his Jedi skills, albeit at his own pace and however he's figuring that out. But he's also trying to figure out how to be a Mandalorian, which is not, I mean, if he had no Jedi skills whatsoever, Grogu ain't gonna last long in this world. Like, he's just not. He's never gonna be able to perform like any of the Mandalorian, no matter how much they train him. He's just, even as Yoda, he would be too small, and he wouldn't have the abilities to probably pull off half of what Mando does. But as a Jedi, it gives him a little bit of extra oomph as far as being able to control things, to move faster, flip around, do things like that. So he's kind of developing at two different skill sets, at a strange pace. And again, we're in our, what we'll say, fourth season, for lack of a better term, and he's still just a kid. He can't even talk still, but yet you can see he's clearly growing up. And it's like, at what point does he become an adolescent and then a teenager and then an adult? Because we don't know. Like, Yoda's species is still super secretive. Like, there's just not a lot out there about him. He's the one thing in Star Wars that's still kind of an enigma. We've only seen Grogu, Yoda, and Yaddle. That's it. We've seen 3 of them, and we've never been to their home world. It's never discussed.
Yeah.
So they're a big mystery. We don't know a lot about them and how they work. So it's kind of interesting.
They spring out of a hole of midi-chlorians that eventually evolve into a...
Oh my God, the curling. Oh my God.
Yeah, quite possibly. They actually, the ooze of midi-chlorians. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you guys saying, but I like what they're doing with it, but like at the same time, it just doesn't come together. And I mean, I'm fine not having a movie that has rich, themes and, character-driven thing. Like, just pick a lane, and that's the problem with this movie, is like, they don't pick a lane, and that's my frustration with that. And I'm fine with what we do with Grogu, and it just doesn't connect to the story that we have present, right? So that's my thing. There's a lot of disconnected.
If I was going to make a prediction in the near future, and I don't know how near that is, I'd say at least with probably the next 5 or so years, depending on how they progress with the Star Wars universe, Grogu's going to separate from Mandalorian, and he's going to become his own creature in his own franchise or movies or TV series or something. So he's not always going to be linked to the Mandalorian, and I think this is the start of it, because the Mandalorian's in a very dangerous profession. So his odds of living, are not great. I think the odds of Grogu surviving are much greater, because even at this stage in his life, he's smart enough to figure out how to do things to survive. his instincts and survival skills, I think, are going to lend to him having a higher survival rate than the average creature.
Yeah.
Going into our episode tonight, I did ask you guys, what were your expectations going into this movie? And I kind of kept this close to my vest, but going into this movie, I kind of felt like this might be like the end of The Mandalorian. Like this was going to introduce us to a Grogu-centric themed movie for the next sequel, or a Grogu-centric television series.
Think that that's an interesting take, that perhaps we might get like a Grogu type of thing. However, I mean, I'm pretty confident that the fandom just really likes the Jedi type of shit, So I know that they already tried to bring Grogu in to get him force trained. I have a feeling that if he does go on his own, that he's going to have to find a Jedi mentor and then make that shit his like thing. You know what I mean? That's the direction I would think that they would take. Look, I like The Mandalorian. I think that shit's cool, man. Bounty hunters and all that. That's awesome. But there is a good portion of the Jedi fandom that's just like, hey man, there's no Jedis. This isn't really a Star Wars movie. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna pull on that thread a little bit, Rick. So if your thought is correct, so he goes out and he has to find another Jedi to train him. Well, the only Jedi that's available is, of course, Luke Skywalker, and we seen him interact with Luke, in what was it, season 2 or 3?
Yeah, the very end. That was that. You know what? And that was fucked up. That was such a. It was such a killer episode, and I think Kathleen Kennedy like pulled the plug on that shit. Fuck that.
Right.
Well, it's Disney's fault. Like, I think the purpose of them being separated made more sense. That was the arc initially, is them being separated, but then because of how popular those two were, they had to force them together, which that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next step? And that's the problem with season 3 and this movie, is like they haven't really figured out what's the next step with these two characters, and that's like the issue.
I want to continue that thread that I was initially pulling there. So in that thought, then, Rick, Grogu ends up trading with Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker takes up his nephew Ben Solo, according to those fan films 7, 8, 9. Ben Solo winds up killing all of Luke Skywalker's students. Ergo, Grogu is now dead, and it's Ben Solo taking up the mantle of Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader when Darth Vader killed all those younglings. So poor Grogu couldn't escape the terrible Vader.
Lies.
Purely hypothetical. Who knows what happens in the reality of Grogu and the Mandalorian? But I will tell you what happens next, though, is good old Mandalorian. He has a feeling like he's being watched, and sure enough, he buckles down his little hut, his home cabin, whatever you want to call it, and fights off the bounty hunter Embo, but not able to succeed. He gets captured, and it's poor Grogu who's left behind with those. Was it 3 Anzelians?
4. Well, yeah, 3, because the one got captured.
Yeah, because the one got
Mando.
captured. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is where we see, okay, so now the hero is gone, so it's up to the partner or the sidekick to rescue him. And we see this really neat little scene of Grogu like gathering everything that he needs. He grabs his equipment, he puts on his little battle armor with the what is that? The razor?
The best car like symbol, yeah. So this reminded me of freaking Gremlins, when Gizmo had to get all his shit together, and he put on the Rambo bandana or a little string on his head and stuff. I think that was in Gremlins too. But and he gets the paper clip,
Yeah,
like
makes a little bow. Yeah. It's funny how there are certain tropes in this film that just feels like other stuff that we all love. That, like I said, they're definitely pulling on those nostalgic strings on our hearts. And I thought it was really neat that, okay, so they're going to go and hop in a ship and fly off and save Mando. And it dawned on me, like, wait a minute, they're going into a ship that these 3 little characters fly.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of scale. And I just thought it was...
That was funny. And
That was really cool. That was good.
And I mentioned that ship, but I also want to kind of talk a little bit about Imbo's ship. So Imbo's ship kind of reminds me of those like classic 1950s flying saucers. And I felt like I've seen this before.
No, I think it's Hondo's. Hondo has the UFO ships.
Okay.
As part of his group, yeah. So those are similar to Hondo's ships.
Gotcha.
Who's one of my favorite characters from the Star Wars franchise, too.
you thought about that, like that character's use in the film. I brought up early before that, like, I don't think you need this character to be in the film. I just felt like you could maybe use a human bounty hunter instead.
Well, considering I'm not real savvy on the Clone Wars, he was a character that like popped up that I'm like, I've seen him. I kind of seen him somewhere before, but I couldn't quite put my finger on him. Had it been, I don't know, another IG-88 unit or something like that, I would have been like, oh, hey, cool. That's a nice callback.
Yeah, Embo was in season 2, episode 17.
Okay.
Clone Wars. That was the first time. I don't think it was the last time, because if I remember correctly, there was another moment when they used several different. I mean, it could have been the same one I'm thinking of, but there was an episode where there were several bounty hunters that they were fighting and stuff like that, and he was one of them.
Yeah, he shows up quite a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did think the whole fight sequence was pretty neat. Mando is inside the cabin and he's fighting off Imbo, and we have the right scale of someone going through a duct system, unlike Bruce Willis and Die Hard. So you kind of get that feeling that, oh hey, this could really happen. So yeah, I did enjoy that.
I thought that these 3 engineers were funny. I like just how they say baby, the bad baby, and that, I mean, it could have been really cringy, but somehow it was really funny, especially when they say good baby.
You know what they are? They're the minions of the Star Wars universe.
For sure.
Is really what they are. I mean, if you think about it, because you listen to them and they'll say a bunch of kind of weird stuff and then they'll say a word, but the words are always perfectly placed to have the maximum amount of impact. And we'll get that later, like when they're crawling through a section of, we'll say, sewer pipe or whatever ventilation. It's probably sewer pipe. And it just, they're going along, it's like a big pipe. I mean, it's a stupid line. It doesn't mean anything, but the context and just the way that it's presented makes it hilarious. So yeah, they totally strike me as the minions of the Star Wars universe, and they pay off in spades for sure.
For sure.
Well, Mando's captured, and he, of course, is brought before the twins, who we find out have intercepted Rada and are intending to slowly torture him for hundreds of years. And to punish Mando for breaking his contract, the twins remove his helmet and drop him into a pool of water, which houses Amani and the giant dragon snake. Seeing them talk to Mando, that's kind of where they mentioned, hey, he's going to suffer for hundreds of years because we have a long lifespan. Oh, by the way, we know that your little Grogu guy has a long lifespan. And I think that's the point where Mando's starting to realize, okay, I need to do something with him, up his training, as this was a time for the twins to kind of torture Mando in a little bit, kind of call him out.
I liked how he held his ground, man. He was like, they took off his helmet and they were like, yeah, man, you're going to be in shame and you're no longer a Mandalorian or whatever. And he was like, well, only if you live. I was like, dang, dude, this guy's straight up G'ing. Yes, that was good.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that alien race, the Amani, in that water? Their heads looked very much like a cobra's head.
They were cool, actually. I really dug those creatures down the water. They did a good job of posing a threat to the Mandalorian. I know they're from the cartoons as well. I think one of them popped up in the movie or one of the episodes or something like that.
They're actually in Jabba's dungeon. That's where you see the first one ever is in Jabba's not his dungeon, but Jabba's palace on Tatooine. There's one of them in the back wall. His name is Man. He's if you were, again, super Star Wars geek and you collected the vintage figures, it was one of the coveted last 17. There was these last 17 figures that they made that are really hard to get, and he's one of them. So I remember getting one. I remember how thrilled I was to get that creature, and then I was like, I would like to know more. I would, totally Starship Troopers. Yes, I would like to know more. Thank you. So, I kind of delved into that, because they're kind of a weird little race, the Amani. And so it was really cool to understand now that, they actually come from Nal Hutta, and damn, they are some vicious creatures. It was really cool to see them in their element.
Yeah.
So me personally, I thought they looked like the lizard creatures from the 80s cartoon TV show Dino Riders, which I imagine none of y'all seen before, but this shit was cool, man. The whole premise of the show was that these like advanced people, their ship was all fucked up. They land on a planet called Earth in prehistoric times, and they use their technology to like befriend dinosaurs. And then these lizard people, they actually use their technology to control the dinosaurs, and they're like fighting and stuff. It's pretty cool, man.
Funny how Star Wars leads to other things, but it all comes right back to Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so seeing the Amani, seeing the Dragon Snake, it felt like, okay, so now we got some cool fight sequences, we get to see Pedro Pascal actually fight, without his helmet on. So he gets his appropriately big-headed, egocentric scenes.
Yeah, that his moneymaker scene.
Yes.
Got to shake his moneymaker. There you go, yeah. I got to ask you guys, before you go a little further that, when he takes off the helmet and you see Pedro Pascal under there, are you like, wow, no, I'm sorry, but this is not the Mandalorian. Like, that dude just, no. I just don't believe that guy is the guy that we see when the helmet goes on. I don't see it. I don't believe it. I don't know who I put under there, but it wouldn't be that dude. I'd rather Keanu Reeves come popping out of that helmet. Honestly, I'd be like, okay, that fucking makes sense.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That was cool. Oh my god.
Oh, you think you're back? Yeah, I think I'm back, and I'm gonna fucking kill you all.
Oh my god.
Yeah, John Wick, Keanu Reeves underneath the helmet, I would believe. So yeah, there's just something about, Pedro, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to fit the bill.
It's like he's some like suburbanite dad in Mandalorian armor.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like some, when he takes the helmet off, I would expect someone with like a crew cut, maybe like a scar across his eye, someone that's, what? Kurt Russell, soldier. That's what I think of when he takes the helmet off. He should look like Kurt Russell from the movie Soldier.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
To prove my point, when you see, and I can't think of the guy's, is it Tamir Morrison or whatever, the guy who plays Jango Fett. When that helmet comes off, you're like, fuck yeah, that is Jango Fett. Like, that dude fits the bill. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, he looks like a Mandalorian. He looks tough. Like, you believe that dude can throw down. And again, Pedro Pascal comes out and you expect him to be like, hey, kids, you need to ride to the PTA meeting or, the soccer game or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. So
I know that it's heresy to remove the helmet, right? But the thing that, like, if you're not like me or like you haven't seen the show, right? They already done this like beat before, like that his helmet was removed. So like I didn't understand why they did that again in this movie.
Moneymaker.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal's mug, got to get his mug up in the stream.
Yeah, I know, but it's like everyone knows who he looks, and like it's not the first time that we saw his face in this character. So like it's not like a big surprise.
I think it also adds when he's basically laying down threats because they're like, well, now that we've seen you, you're no longer an honorable Mandalorian. He's like, well, only if you live. So I thought that was kind of clever too. I mean, did he have to have his thing off? No. Would they have done that? Probably. They probably would have done that just to like, further dishonor him and stuff. I mean, it works, man. I think it works.
But what if we have 3 more Mandalorian films? Do we have to figure out a way to have his helmet removed in every one of them so he can get his mug shot in there? Like, I don't need that. If that's what this guy's got to have, then jettison this dude and get somebody else and put him in the suit. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't need to see him mug it every time so he can get some face time. Like, oh, look, they removed my mask again. Pay me, Disney, pay me.
Well, I thought the scene that comes after this was pretty cool with him fighting in the waters down there. I thought that was some pretty cool ass shit, man.
Oh yeah.
It's like they took the whole idea of a Rancor pit and there was like, yeah, but it's not a Rancor pit. It's a pit of Basilisk from Harry fucking Potter, man.
One giant white basilisk, yes. So when he got bit by the basilisk, I'm like, okay, so now he's going to have the venom running through him. So we're going to have the classic trope of he has to try to find an antidote. Again, I'm going to channel this because I didn't see the trailer. I felt like he was going to die. Again, I'm going into this, I'm thinking that this is going to be the end of The Mandalorian. And I was like, oh, kind of slightly disappointed.
You know, we're not at the end or whatever, but being that we're talking about the demise of the Mandalorian, I don't think that that's really in the cards. I think this is one of those things. I mean, going back to the trope of it being a Western, I think in the end, he just rides off into the sunset. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that's just basically what's going to have to happen with the Mandalorian if they want to kick Pedro Pascal to the curb. You know, he's just going to have to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be able to find somebody that's going to keep the helmet on, and you're just going to have somebody come over that can voice his voice close enough. He doesn't really sound like Pedro Pascal when he's underneath that helmet, which is part of what makes him sound much tougher. And because they modulate that voice because it needs to sound like it's coming through there, you can't tell me you can't get a voice actor that's going to get that in the ballpark.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously in this movie, they have two other guys playing him all the time when he's got his helmet on anyway. So really, do we need him anymore? I don't think so. I think we can kick him to the curb and just completely make movies without him going forward.
They've done that with cartoon characters, the Mask cartoon. The guy sounded just like Jim Carrey.
Yes. I've seen bits of that.
They replaced the guy from Rick and Morty, and he sounds just like Rick.
Yeah.
So, I'd be spot on.
Mando's fighting the dragon snake in the pit, and Grogu shows up with the Anzelians in their little spaceship. We had an establishing shot earlier in the movie of when Mando shows up in the Razor Crest to Nal Hutta, and they show like all this heavy surveillance, but yet this little tiny ship with the Anzelians and with Grogu manages to slip in. And I thought that's kind of clever because their ship is so big, they're probably not getting picked up on the radar. They're probably just thought of as like space junk. So they're able to like slip in under the radar and land on the planet safely.
Right, because it's so small, right?
Yeah, I'm like, that is clever. That is very Men in Black.
Yeah, it was.
And, Grogu and these three little aliens are off to save the Mandalorian.
It seemed fun. You know what I mean? It was just watching them have their own little interactions, and you could kind of I think Tim or Matt, you said that it was akin to them being like minions and stuff. So it's got that comic relief, and it pulls in the younger audience and stuff. And for me, I'm freaking not a younger audience, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of cool, man.
Yeah.
I like the little speech that they got going on.
You know what it is? It's Red Dawn at a micro machine level. Got that great comedic relief because you see that little speeder bike sidecar thing. They're all, cruisers like, yeah, you see me rolling. We're all going to roll in on this. And then it's just this tiny little thing coming in with these tiny little guys. It's just hilarious. But, you look at that and be like, some shit's about to go down. These guys are going to throw down at such a large scale. It's going to be epic kind of thing.
Yes.
It was done so well. Again, it's the Minions. It's the Minions and Grogu going to save the day, and it's going to get absolutely ridiculous, and it's going to be very entertaining, and it is.
And they do it so well because this is the opportunity where Grogu gets to grow. He gets to become the Mandalorian's Robin to his Batman. He's like going through the tunnels. He's using a little bit of the Force. He's got his he's got his armor on. He's got his little devices and stuff like the Mandalorians do. He is the amalgamation of the Jedi and the Mandalorian, and he's like bringing balance between those two races. He would be like the chosen one, almost, maybe.
Well, that's the beauty because the Jedi are gone. Luke's there, but again, we've discussed this before. He's not really a Jedi.
Right.
Like he is, but like he's just making it up as he goes along because all that shit's gone. He's just trying to piece it together and be like, this is how I think it should represent. Grogu's going to be what's going to be the future of it. he's going to be the rogue subclass Jedi. He's going to be like a Jedi with some other kind of subclass where they're not going to be all clean in their little, monk robes and carrying their lightsabers. They're going to be like part Force user, part something else. They're going to be dual class. If you're playing an RPG, they're going to be a Jedi rogue or a Jedi warrior or a Jedi, something. The Jedi, it's just a Jedi bounty hunter. That's what it's going to be. So it's going to be a combination of the two. And all the rules that we know that they have to play by, that shit's going out the door.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be however I feel like I should do this. Now, will that lead him to the dark side or the light side? Whole nother conversation. But nonetheless, it's going to be a dual class thing because the rules are no longer there in place. It's just kind of like, I'm going to learn what I can. I'm going to adapt it to whatever chosen class I've picked or life that I've chosen to lead.
Yeah, it's like the wild, wild west of Jedi.
Yeah. They're Ronin. They're Ronin is what they are. They are like, a masterless samurai now.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. We keep coming up with this theme that this is a Western in space. And I got to say, it feels very much like it.
Yeah. Not far from what George Lucas was trying to do in the original Star Wars. Very much homaging that type of films and storylines that you've seen previously. That was the thing that made Star Wars Star Wars. It was influenced by these other pop culture things that was going on at the time.
Mando's fighting the dragon snake. Grogu and the Anzelians show up to basically rescue Mando, and they all get out of the palace, not without them being chased by a bunch of droid troopers from the Clone Wars. And that's, of course, where we get the little comedic thing of Mando shows up to the Anzelian spaceship and it's not big enough to whisk them away.
Yeah.
So in order to allow them to escape, he says, all right, I'm going to stay here. You guys take off. And that's, of course, where Mando starts to succumb to his wounds of the dragon snake. He falls down. Again, I'm going to go to the fact that I thought this was going to be the end of The Mandalorian, and seeing him fall, I'm like, this is the perfect ending. Just, boom, cut right there, end of the movie. Grogu goes off and, has adventures with these little minion-looking characters. But no, it doesn't stop. It continues on, and we find that, Grogu stuck around because he is, again, his Robin to Mando's Batman. Okay, there you go, Andreas. That's 2 Batman references for you.
Very good. I'm proud of you. I have turned all of you to be Batman. Oh, yes.
I don't know if you turned Matt into a Bat fan. He's already been one.
Yeah, you're right.
Ever since his father gave him Batman episode number 1.
Or, pajamas or comic books.
So Andres, what do you think of the sacrifice that Mando's making so that Grogu can escape?
It was good. It was like, I think it was well done. Like he realized that he got poisoned by the creature, telegraphed by the twins while they were seeing the battle down the hole. I think it was kind of tough to be invested in that moment because he's gonna pull through that situation, no matter what. And but it was well done. And it wasn't like horrible, but like they're not gonna kill him off. It's gonna be just this long thing of like him being out of the picture and just showing off how cute Grogu is and like he's adorable and like showing out the the incredible puppeteering, which like it felt like you were at, like, again, the Dark Crystal and Labyrinth from those Jim Henson films.
Seeing Grogu show up and kind of help the Mandalorian and Grogu makes that like mud hut. It got me thinking, so if he can make a mud hut that size when he's a little guy, when he gets much older, would he make a mud hut on a planet like Dagobah, much like Yoda was living in a mud hut? Did Yoda make that mud hut?
Yeah.
Right. This was obviously a definite handoff back to the Empire, Strikes Back. That's what they wanted. They wanted to see some Grogu growth here. He's on his own. He's got to figure things out. Obviously, his intelligence level far surpasses, that of a normal baby. I mean, this is very obvious just with everything that he does. But he has there's some instincts. Again, this must go back to, whatever the species is that Yoda and them are. That seems instinctual that they know how to build these weird igloo mud hut things. That's to give us that Empire feel good feel. He's walking along with that little staff. it's a much bigger version, but part of that staff is half of Yoda's staff with a little bit more added on to it, so there's that too. It's all supposed to harken back to Dagobah to give us that feel, that reminder, that feel good, series that we had back then with Yoda, reliving it with Groda and Grogu, in a different kind of way. So, I mean, it's just more, fan service for sure, but it's not bad. I mean, we all feel it, we all know it, kind of thing. And there's going to be another moment that they're going to capture that's going to go back to Dagobah too. They do it twice to us. This one's hits you over the head. The second one's a little less obvious, but once you kind of point it out, you're like, oh, yeah, I see it now. I totally see it. Yeah, that totally makes sense. But we love Yoda. We love the Dagobah scenes. We love the training. We love everything that happens there. Why wouldn't we want to see that again with Grogu? The miniature Yoda. It just makes sense. So it's a feel-good moment that pays off. And and there's a comedic value to it too. When he tries to put the Mandalorian in and he just boom, 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 because he can't get him in all the way because he made it too short.
Literally hits him
funny.
over the head with the mud hud.
Yeah.
And just like any other kid, he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to throw some twigs over his legs and call it a day.
Yeah.
And this kind of gives Grogu the chance to really play the protector role. And it's a bit of a role reversal because Grogu has always been protected by the Mandalorian. This gives a different take on the whole who is being protected here. So, I definitely agree that it is a chance to develop his character and kind of come into his own, and it's relatable. It is funny. It is funny too. So that's great.
Yeah. Right. Well, I gotta say, Tim did mention that some of this stuff does harken back to Dagobah, and it also kind of harkens a little bit back to the Phantom Menace for me. Grogu's always looking for food, always eating, and he comes across a fisherman, a guy that looks like a catfish, and he's smoking fish, and I'm like, oh, hey. And sure enough, Grogu in his nature of always wanting to eat, steals a fish off of the guy, kind of like Jar Jar was stealing fish a frog from the vendor on Tatooine.
I gotta put it out there though, like the way you made it sound, make it sound like there's something else going on here. You said that this dude is smoking fish.
He looks like a fish and he's smoking fish. So I'm like, that seems a little weird. But yeah, Grogu eats the fish, but then he comes back later, and I don't know if he comes back because the Force urged him to go back, or if he just felt bad because he stole the fish from the guy.
He wanted more fish.
So he actually has an interaction with him, and through that interaction, he creates a friend that saves him. He not only saves him, but he also saves the Mandalorian. And I thought, okay, well, this is very much like your standard hero trope. The hero finds assistance to succeed in his journey. Now, what did you guys think of his interaction with this backwoods Louisianian Boomhauer-esque kind of character, which I was convinced at first was voiced by Keith David, but I was clearly wrong.
Yeah.
What did you think of that guy?
I thought that guy was cool. It kind of was a little bit of like the NPC, just kind of like making the shit happen so that the story can move along, I think in general, we kind of adore Grogu, so I'm thinking we're okay with Grogu getting help. Like, it doesn't take anything away. So, I mean, he's trying his best and he's getting help from where he can. He happens to get lucky to where this person doesn't actually rat him out, when he could. So maybe it's the Force saying this dude is cool, But yeah, like, are you cool, man? Like, yeah. Yeah, I'm over here smoking fish.
I think your NPC analogy is spot on. It's totally what it is. It's just that I got to walk up to this person so I can figure out what the next part of the quest is, kind of thing. The only thing that really pays off that whole scene is when he gets eaten by the giant frog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of entertaining or whatever. It's like, it looks like you're going to be dinner for everything if you're not careful. But this is just to get us to the next scene kind of thing. Like, it's good. I didn't even give it much thought.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Tim here. Like, yeah, it just felt like a video game plot point. It's like, oh, here's the
cutscene.
the cutscene, and here's the formula or like the thing to like help your friend or whatever to like accomplish the cure, whatnot. The weird thing was is that he felt way too CGI. Kind of took me off a little bit. His like rendering was kind of like not finished. We got some comedic moments with the Grogu, like the Grogu getting sucked into that weird alien frog. That reminded me of that creature from the Return of the Jedi. Weirdly, but
I think Andres is right. I think it looks kind of like that frog that was sitting outside in Jabba's palace in Tatooine.
yeah,
Which
Okay.
I guess would kind of make sense that if you had one as a pet or he eats them damn things. He eats a lot of frogs and stuff. So maybe that was just food that got away out into the desert because I can't see a frog lasting long in the desert. But I looked at it like, that looks oddly familiar. Yeah, I've seen this movie twice now. The first time I left the theater, missed this whole part because I had to go use the restroom. The second time I was like, I picked the right point because this was just, it wasn't, it didn't really take away that I missed it the first time. I understood that somebody helped him. It was like, okay, yeah, great,
So then Grogu then uses that wonderful poultice or whatever it was he got from the backwoods guy and manages to give it to the Mandalorian.
He
And
got that fish, smoked fish.
Rick's going to make something out of this come hell or high water. There's a joke in
Yeah.
there somewhere and he's going to find it.
yeah. And then of course, the next day the Mandalorian's up and about, feeling great. He's ready to take on the world, grab a Gundar by its ears. And so this, I think, leads into that theme of, okay, now that they're healed, they really can't just run away and escape the planet. They have to, go back and rescue Rada and stand up to the bullies. And so they wind up finding a vehicle to take off, or to not only take off from the planet, but to use to get back to fight the Hutts. And of course, it's the Tortuga that Tim was so nice enough to make the connection to. And I just thought it was a cool sequence to see him going through and finding all these cool weapons and stuff because the guy was evidently a gun runner. And
they take Rada out of there, but they don't empty the cargo. That makes no effing sense either. Like, why would you not pilfer all the weapons in there?
right.
yeah.
And by the
That was
way,
good.
whenever you say the Tortuga, I'm always thinking like Tortuga, like for Pirates of the Caribbean and shit, man.
Yeah, or toga, like in college, like toga from the, Animal House, Jimmy
Yeah.
Neutron, like,
So they decided to do a frontal attack with this giant, rhino turtle looking ship. And this is kind of where we get the whole story is now coming up to its pinnacle result, and we get some cool fight sequences. We got Grogu saving Rada, we've got the Mandalorian fighting Embo, we got the twins that are just kind of like attacking everybody or everything, and just a really cool fight sequence. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was a great way to kind of like wrap up the antagonist versus the protagonist, what we're looking forward to in a Star Wars action sequence at the end of a movie. I thought it was a great fight sequence. I thought it was just a great thing in general. How did you guys feel about the way that this fight sequence leads to the end of the film?
So this is where you see the stop motion robots, right? The called the Tippets, that they are called, honoring was it Joe Tippett or the famous industrial light magic stop animator who has done
Okay.
like a lot of classic stop motion stuff. Like he helped out the movements of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, the first one, before they eventually went with the CGI. But he also did Ed 209, Ed 29, yeah, right, Ed
Ed 209
yeah,
from RoboCop.
from RoboCop, and like he did that, and of course the Robo Kane and the sequel. Like he's really famous, and like he helped realize the big Empire walk snow machines from Empire, like very legendary person. This was the scene I really love. Like it was such a great throwback, like as I say before, from the stop motion films like Clash of the Titans, and it was so cool how they emulate that. It was like, oh wow, like it looked like you're in the stop motion movie. You've seen those type of movies before from the 50s or like the late 80s. When Clash of Science was like the last of those. Yeah,
Andreas, I'm gonna also point out that this kind of also reminded me a little bit of the Jim Henson film Labyrinth,
yeah,
when Jennifer Connelly's character has to fight the giant door that turned into a robot.
yes.
So yeah,
Oh god.
I'm right with you. I thought this was a really cool sequence.
Felt like those two robots were very reminiscent of the ABC Warrior from Judge Dredd.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was thinking about. I was totally. Well, I wanted to forget about the movie, but yeah, they totally like that from Judge Dredd, the comics. Yeah, so that was my favorite action scene, and it's just a little detail. I like how the Mandalorian had to like reload the gun that he had, the confiscate from the ship. That was really cool. I really dug the fight between the twins and Rada. That was really cool. Like that was really exciting, and like thank God he survived. And I love the deaths from the twins. Like I love how that big snake ate them, like like kind of like what Jabba did with those weird like eels and the cup whatever from Return to Jedi and whatnot. Yeah, I really dug the finale. Really big spectacle explosions and like seeing all the androids doing their thing, which was really cool. Like yeah, all that was spectacular. I never had a problem with that that like finale because it was so entertaining, and like this is where like the movie magic was kind of cool, seeing the old, new, and like the now into one in the scene, which was really cool. So I thought it was well done. Like the only thing that like I really don't need the bounty hunter to be there to fighting the Mandalorian, but it was fine. It was serviceable. Just I just didn't really care about that character really all throughout the film as we were seeing that character. I was surprised he didn't die. Like yeah, they kind of did this the sequel thing, like, oh, we're gonna see him again in
Right.
either the show or whatever.
Well, he's Captain America with the shield on his head. I mean, just the way he fights and everything. So
Yeah.
he's gonna come back.
Yeah. But yeah, so I really dug the finale. It was top notch, and nothing new, but like it was all well done. And I was like pretty excited to see the action. So that's my thoughts on the finale.
I think that there was a little bit of a missed opportunity because season 1 of Mandalorian, the robots were like his arch enemy, and I think that they could have done a little better job to revisit that sentiment. Mandalorian
that,
doesn't
yeah.
like robots very much, and that would have made this a little bit more meaningful for those people who remember from season 1. Then it's like, oh yeah, man, he gets a chance to actually bash in some AI robot heads and stuff like that. However, I do want to caution everyone because this is a little bit of like, anti-AI propaganda here. That, I mean, I honestly don't think that it would be that easy to destroy this large, even if it's a rabble of AI cobbled together by Hutts. I just, I mean, it works and stuff. I just, I don't know if I necessarily agree with it or whatever, but it's fun either way because it's make believe. If it was for real, I would have to warn people that this might not be a good idea. So I'm just saying.
So in Phantom Menace, we established that there's a control ship that controls all the droids. So, Mando gets rescued by the New Republic because they show up on Nal Hutta and basically start fighting everything. Why didn't the X-Wings go after the quote control ship and just take out all the droids in one fell swoop?
Exactly,
Because it was in the big mud hut they were living in.
Yeah, there you go. And that was actually pretty ballsy, Just go ahead and shoot where I'm at, It's like, oh shit,
I'm gonna reference James Bond, but it felt very James Bond-esque. Like, you have a thermo device heading towards you, James. What are you gonna do? Oh, we'll send it, redirect right here because we're gonna blow up the main control house. So
it's like the same thing in the We Were Soldiers. Like, just shoot right where we're at. Like, right where we're at, drop everything you got. That's what that was. It was the Hail Mary, with the broken arrow, whatever you want to call it. That's what that moment was. But I mean, I liked the ending. I thought it was cool. And right up to the end here, they're still throwing a bunch of, fan love our way. And I'll kind of point them out since you guys have kind of covered most of the movie. But I mean, first of all, I would like to, before I do that, I want to jump on that. I too enjoyed the repurposing of the separatist AI robots and turning them into this droid army, but they're like a hobbled together versions of what we know them to be. Like, it wasn't always the right bodies on the right heads and the right bodies, things like that. So I thought it was cool what they did with them and how they're repurposing these, quote unquote old tech to, defend their realm, their territory, their castle, their mud hut, whatever you want to call that. But I enjoy seeing that, tying in with, episode 1 Clone Wars, whatever you want to say. But one of the other things that I really enjoyed, we kind of talked about, the fight between the huts and everything. And when they all fall into the pit, that's where we get that last little, Empire love, that little throwback, if you will, to Yoda, of Grogu lifting Rada out of the pit, which, you got this little guy just straining and lifting him up and pulling him over. It's the same thing. It's Yoda pulling the X-Wing out of the swamp. That's what that is. That's totally just everything short of the judge me by my size, do you statement. I mean, that's totally what that was. It's a little bit more, and you don't realize it until you start thinking about it. You're like, that's why that feels as good as it does, because we all remember that moment where he's like, this is why you fail, and let me show you now. I'm going to lift this big ass ship out of the swamp. I'm going to pull this big hut out of a hole. So it was nice. I mean, and there's little things like when the X-Wings are coming in to fight, the little screens on them, those are actually scenes from the video game, from the Atari video game, where their little screen things there are basically like the towers that you see and everything in the Atari arcade game and stuff like that. I like that the X-Wing pilots are basically, it's like Dave Filoni and a bunch of the directors and stuff from the other movies. That's where all those. That's why they all look older and things like that. He's like, these seems like some, like the Rebels, or well, I shouldn't even say the Republic's really, seems to be at a loss to get young pilots, because all these people are really old, but that's why, because they're all. So if you know who these people are, like, oh, I know who that is. I know who that is. And they even put Captain Carson in there, so we get to see him from the Rebels and stuff. And then what's the last thing we see? Somebody shoots a womp rat. I was like, oh shit, I think somebody just hit a womp rat, so it was kind of like a nice little touch at the very end there. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. Like, it was really good. The whole battle was good. The little mini guys are hilarious during the breakout and everything. We get to see a little fight with Grogu. We get to see, the different bounty hunters throw down on each other. And I'm kind of glad that we got to see, the other bounty hunter get away, because technically he comes out of retirement for this. So like, he's kind of like, you know what? Screw it. I'm out, kind of thing. And he lives to fight another day, because who doesn't like some of these guys? Like, we've got a lot of cool bounty hunters over the years. We got the IG-88 bounty hunters, things like that. We got Cad Bane. Love me some Cad Bane. Loved it when he showed up in the Mandalorian series earlier, and stuff.
For sure, man.
Yeah. It's just we love seeing bounty hunters. So nobody wants to watch these guys get killed. I mean, hell, they even brought back Boba Fett. We all thought he was done in the Sarlacc, but
Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where, but unfortunately that took a turn for the worse, so we won't go there. But regardless, it was a great way to end the show. And again, they just kept throwing in, a bunch of fan service right up until the absolute last minute. So I just enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
Thought it was solid.
And I think that the final cherry on top is you get that callback to like the first season when they're in the Razor Crest and Mando takes that little ball off of the gear shift, I guess, for lack of a better term, and he hands it to Grogu. And now Grogu gets to sit in the seat and use that lever to punch it into hyperspace. So, now we kind of go that journey has now, I would say the journey of the movie has been complete, but yet it's now started a new chapter to where Grogu is now learning and now growing as a character. And I just think that's a nice little cherry on top for the end of the movie.
Got that look that every kid gets when you hand your 15-year-old the car keys for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. I just recently saw that look too. So
yeah. We all know that look. We are both proud and terrified all in the same moment.
Well, anyone else have any final comments about how they feel about the wrap up of this film before we get into our rating system?
I mean, it was a solid end, nothing special. Again, it's just I wasn't really emotionally invested in what was going on with our main characters, which was the issue. Where when Robert the Hutt say that he wants to join the New Republic, that was really cool. I was so happy because I really love that character, and he was the MVP of this movie. I had to say, Jeremy White from The Bear, like he was a good voice for the character. I mean, they could have cast someone else. I was talking to my friend, another movie reviewer, YouTuber. Like she just thought like I don't know, like the voice, like it was kind of like, it was just there. Like, why you couldn't get a voice actor to maybe punch up the character? But I thought the performances was good. I thought the CGI of that character was great, and I was invested in that storyline because there was like a heart to it than what we have for our main characters, and that was something that with the ending, I was like, okay, yeah, like of course, we set up like he was not allowed to touch the buttons, and now we're allowing the baby Yoda to touch the buttons. Seeing their relationship blossoming yet again. How many times? The fourth time, whatever, or fifth time. Want to include Book of Boba Fett, why not? Yeah, so it was a solid, logical ending for these characters, and very curious if we're gonna get fourth season or whatever you want to call that, or fifth season, because whatever you want to pin. It ended like a very safe way, to be honest, and that's the whole point of this movie. It was so safe, and
gotcha.
That's the thing.
Okay. How about you, Rick? Any last thoughts before we get into our rating system?
Like my final thoughts for the whole movie?
No
last thoughts on this final sequence.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, now that we've discussed Mandalorian and Grogu, let's see how this film rates on IMDb. So, according to IMDb, it is 7.0 stars out of 10. Reviewers say that The Mandalorian and Grogu delivers Star Wars charm with spectacular visuals and family-friendly appeal that works across generations. The action sequences impress, and the characters remain endearing. However, the film disappoints with an underdeveloped story that feels like an extended filler, sluggish pacing, especially in the final act, and committee-driven writing lacking narrative coherence. While visually polished and entertaining for young audiences, it struggles to provide meaningful plot, progression, and emotional depth for invested fans. I don't know. I didn't get all of that, you know. But I'll go into that a little bit with the death clock. Now that we know where this movie rates on IMDb, let's see how it holds up on our grading system. We all have that limited time on Earth. Is it worth taking that time to watch this film? Rick, is it worth taking the 2 hours and 15 minutes off your death clock?
I think so. I think that for many people, I think this would actually be something that you'd want to watch. I understand with some of the things that were said, that you just read from the IMDb. I think we all mentioned that there were a little bit of issues with the plot and things like that. So, I mean, in general, I'd say that this was a very funny rendition for Star Wars. It had a good amount of comic relief. Tim noted that there's a bunch of callbacks, a lot of fan service, and the plot may not have been super good, but it was decent enough. But I did like the music, the special effects, the action sequences. So, and like I said earlier, maybe a little bit of the acting from some of the bigger stars could have maybe been a little better or could have worked a little better. Could maybe, like what you guys have said, could have been some of the casting for one or two or more of the people who were put in this movie. But in general, especially when we consider where Star Wars has been for the past few years, I do think that this actually seems as though it feels like Star Wars IP is moving in the right direction. And I think after watching this, and I know we're not rating the Shadow Lords, but after watching Maul, it really does seem like there may be some really good flicks in the Star Wars universe in the near future. So because of that, I mean, I guess it might be possible for people who aren't at all into Star Wars to maybe skip this as a whole and wait for the better things that I believe are to come. I do think that it's a good enough watch, especially if you have youngins. I think that this really does cater to a young audience, but not exclusively. There's enough here to where, especially if you're a Star Wars fan already, that you should definitely go watch this. I mean, it's a pretty good movie, and it's really fun.
All right. Well, how about you, Tim, as our Star Wars aficionado? Where does this rate on your death clock?
All right, so I'm going to put it out there. When I went to see this again, as I said at the beginning, I had no desire. I was done. Star Wars was pretty much dead to me. I mean, absolutely dead. I went and seen this pretty much due to family peer pressure and being on vacation and stuck with a bunch of family. So I went and, again, was pleasantly surprised at what I seen. So much so that I came back and it convinced you guys that you had to go see this just so we could do this podcast. It has given me a glimmer of hope that maybe Star Wars isn't as dead as I had thought. Now, and I agree with Rick's analysis that, when you couple this with the new Maul Shadow Lord series, it really seems like Star Wars may be finally moving in the right direction again. But I will throw in an asterisk here that they took the safe road. This Mandalorian series happens right after basically Return of the Jedi, and pretty much so does the Maul series. So it's pretty safe. Are they going to double down on the new timeline? If they feel like they still have to force that down our throats, we may still be screwed. This was super safe. They were able to, again, give it a lot of fan service, go back to all the old films, put a lot of things that we love and make us, feel warm and fuzzy inside, and kind of repackage it again into this film that made us really enjoy it. So for now, I'm super happy. I hope they keep going. I don't know if they're going to be able to. It just depends on what direction they want to go. But yes, you should go see this, because honestly, it is not getting the legs under it that I think it deserves, because I think a lot of people out there are just hating on it to hate on it now. I mean, again, everybody should see this. You should all go see Maul, Shadow Lord as well. And let's just put a lot of pressure on Disney to keep going, because Disney, this is the way. Period.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Well, how about you, Andreas? Are you going to side with Tim and Dungeon Master Elite, or are you going off on your own?
I'll say it's worth the death clock. This is the better of the Disney era films, but it doesn't reach the heights of Empire or really the recent stuff like the Shadow Lord, Darth Maul show that just recently came out, or Endor, the first 2 seasons. Don't really expect that. This is a totally different project. Star Wars is harkening back, what Star Wars was first, a family action film, and that's what it was, and it delivered that, which is great. I agree with Tim. We addressed the nitpicks and the complaints and the flaws of the film, but we also addressed the positives, and it's a fun film. I mean, there's funny moments that I love. I remember. I love the action, and I love the craftsmanship. It's really good in this movie, but we're not gonna into that. So yeah, I recommend it to watch it as a Star Wars fan. It's not bad. It's really good. It's a fun movie.
Well, I think I'm going to end up following suit with everybody else. We've got 4 yeses here. My yes is purely for the growth of the world building in the Star Wars universe. There's something about seeing some of the titular or the tertiary characters getting some screen time. I will say that it does have one caveat, and don't go in expecting a typical hero's journey for Mando. This is more of a journey for Grogu. I honestly think the movie should have been called Grogu and the Mandalorian. But, his journey seems to get the most growth, even though he is the sidekick to Mando. My biggest issue with the film is just the sameness or the continued use of story or filmmaking tropes. I mean, I think we've mentioned several different things in this movie that are very similar to previous things, and not only just in Star Wars, but in, pop culture movies like Blade Runner or, Westerns. It feels like part of me wants something new each time I go to see a movie. And as much as I enjoyed watching Grogu and Mando, there were some things that felt very similar for me. So that's what I think. I think, yes, it is worth taking time off your death clock. All right, guys. Well, it has been a Star Wars fest tonight, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We'll all hop into our X-Wings and our B-Wings and our aluminum Falcons and take this thing home.
Thanks for listening to Middle Age Movies Podcast and our review of The Mandalorian and Grogu. We hope you've enjoyed it because this is better than you've been told. We have spoken. So please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your friends. Help us keep the man community growing strong so we can continue to keep you from wasting your precious death clock on crappy movies.
Follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. Have a comment or suggestion? Then email the show at manreviewpodcast@gmail.com. And hey, you want to support our show? Then check out our Threadless shop for all of our cool merch at middleagemoviereviews.threadless.com.
Thanks, stay cool, and bye, everyone.
When the lights go down, the big screen gets so bright. I got my favorite beverage, snacks, and my chair feels right. Yeah. Color, silent, black and white. You never know what's on that screen tonight, but you're gonna find out on Middle Age Movie Reviews. But will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding. No, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding. Oh, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding.